This kid is the greatest genius born in the last 300 years, right from birth. Dale didn't shed a single tear. His mother had to use all her strength, and only then did the infant finally cry. By age 8, the boy was already a prodigy among geniuses. Slinging multiple elemental spells in battle came to him as naturally as breathing. His talent was so terrifying that at just 10 years old, his father threw him onto the front lines of a massive war. Armed with the boy's power, their enemies were crushed like insects. Soon, rumors spread everywhere about this young monster, the absolute terror of the battlefield. Then one day, a young noblewoman from a fallen kingdom named Charlotte Orlhart was dragged to House Saxon. The family was led by Duke Alan Saxon, the most feared necromancer on the continent and the master of the infamous Black Tower. Begging for shelter as a mere servant in his castle was a massive insult to a girl who grew up fiercely proud of her warrior bloodline. There was no way she would bow to some little kid. Furious, the proud girl challenged Dale to a duel, determined to prove her absolute superiority with a blade. She did carry the legendary lineage of the divine sword, after all. Charlotte threw everything she had at him, but even with Dale relying strictly on swordsmanship, she could not touch him. She was even pouring her aura into the fight. Crushed by her very first defeat, she broke down in tears, feeling completely hopeless. About avenging her family, Dale looked down at her with cold eyes. You lack strength, but you certainly do not lack talent. Swear your absolute loyalty to House Saxon, and I will make you strong enough to claim your bloody vengeance. Will she take the offer? Can a mere kid actually deliver on that promise? But first, a flashback. Before all this, his name was Han Sung. He barks at his comrade to stand up so they can keep moving. The soldier nods, dragging himself up, while Han Sung locks another round into his rifle. For decades, humanity has been locked in a brutal war against vicious monsters. After endless slaughter, only a tiny remnant of humanity survives, but Han Sung's ultimate goal lies right ahead. Then, without warning, a massive magic circle erupts beneath his boots. His eyes widen in sheer disbelief. Before he can even process what is happening, the circle drags him downward and Han Sung completely vanishes from the battlefield, as his entire body gets pulled through a bizarre void. A booming voice orders him to answer the call. Golden energy binds his neck. Once his vision finally clears, the young soldier is trapped in a dark chamber, surrounded by creepy hooded figures. They watch him in eerie silence. Glancing down at his arms, he spots glowing magic shackles gripping his wrists. An old man steps forward, pulling back his hood to welcome the summoned hero, apologizing for the sudden and forceful invitation. Straight to the point, they need him to destroy the demon lord and save their dying world. Panicked, Han Sung demands answers, shouting to know where he is, because he was just fighting a war back in Korea. To shut him up, the elder snaps a spell right at him. The soldier collapses in sheer white-hot agony while the caster explains that a binding master-servant oath is now active. The pain will stop if he submits. With tears stinging his eyes and fire rushing through his veins, the young man has absolutely no choice here. The bald elder grabs a cold iron sword and demands once more, slay the Demon King and save our empire. With that, he throws the weapon to his feet. He ends by promising that if Han Sung succeeds, he will finally be sent back to his own world. The hooded figures watch with gleaming eyes, waiting for his answer. Han Sung reads the room, weighs his next moves, and decides the only real choice is to accept. That was how Han Sung was summoned to a completely different world, forced to fight as the hero of an empire. The young man worked without rest, carrying every heavy burden and heading into countless battles, always cutting his enemies down. 3 years passed, then 5, then 10. His entire youth was sacrificed in pursuit of one goal, defeating the Demon King of Valor. But now, after the main mission is finally done, the bald old man announces a brand new mission. Han Sung, irritated, snaps that this was not the deal. The old man replies that saving the empire does not end with the Demon King's death. There are still rebels opposing unification, and all of them must be eliminated. A wanted poster is pinned to the wall, showing the face of Bottle, a man from the Night Kingdom of Teutonia, marked for death. Smiling sarcastically, the old man asks the hero to help them just a little bit more, and a dog on a leash has no choice. Han Sung heads into yet another battle, wondering when this nightmare will finally end. After a brief exchange of blows, he manages to land a clean sword strike on Bottle. Wounded, the man tells his opponent he is incredibly foolish. Han Sung replies he had no choice. and looking down whispers that he is sorry, with a grim look bottle. Tells Han Sung not to apologize because soon he will be discarded too, after. Completing the task, the protagonist believes he can finally go home, but before he can celebrate, the threads binding his neck are yanked with brutal force. A bearded man approaches, congratulating the otherworldly hero while pulling the threads tight and driving a sword deep into his stomach. Han Sung recognizes that face. It is Count Brandenburg. The Count says the young man served incredibly well as the Empire's loyal hunting dog and as Grand General and Sacred Knight. He acknowledges his efforts. It is at that moment the truth sinks in, and trust me, they never intended to send him back. Striking him again, the Count remarks they did not even need to worry since a hunting dog only knows how to bite. Han Sung collapses unconscious to the wet ground. Brandenburg bids him farewell, losing consciousness. The young man realizes he saw this coming all along. His final thoughts are a dark promise. He will never forget this humiliation and will make this entire empire pay with total annihilation. Sometime later on that same night, one life closes its eyes for the last time, while another opens them for the first. A duchess approaches her newborn baby, but the baby starts to think, realizing he has absolutely never seen this young woman before. With some effort, his old memories begin to flood back. The man beside her is the finest necromancer on the continent, the renowned Duke Saxon. So, this place must be the Empire's forbidden magic headquarters. Necropolis, where the Black Tower stands. Before dying, Han Sung had secretly hidden a resurrection stone among his belongings, but the body he would reincarnate into was completely random. He got lucky. He is born the firstborn. He's reborn as the heir of Duke Saxon, one of the Empire's greatest lords. This time, he's truly born with a silver spoon in his mouth. His ultimate goal is clear: grow up, master necromancy, and utterly slaughter every single traitor who crossed him. But right now, Saxon is worried. His newborn isn't crying. A midwife approaches, reassuring him that the boy is fine, just quiet. But Han Sung, of course, is no ordinary infant. He won't cry that easily. She checks his chest and notes his breathing is perfectly stable. Still, the Duke is uneasy. He wonders if a silent birth is some dark, terrible omen. The midwife just chuckles, replying that the absolute best cure for a quiet baby is a couple of light slaps on his bottom. This humiliating situation leaves Han Sung mortified, yet the infant still refuses to cry, convincing the proud parents that the boy inherits his father's unmatched, legendary toughness. With a warm smile, his mother asks to cradle him. Our protagonist braces for another round of painful humiliation, but nothing happens. Instead, she cradles him with absolute tenderness. The moment her warm hand touches his skin, something deep inside him completely shatters. Han Sung tries to remember the last time he felt this. Not agony, not blood, just love. This pure tenderness radiates a warmth he has not felt in decades. In that single, quiet moment, his emotional walls crumble. Han Sung cannot hold back. He lets out a real raw cry, like a true newborn. Years pass. We see the Duke and Duchess waking up. Saxon marvels at how incredibly fast time flies. It has already been 8 whole years since Dale was born. His wife gently asks if their son is still buried in library books, a habit starting when he was barely 4. The Duke smiles, noting the boy has started showing interest in magic, but his wife quickly turns serious, guiding his gaze to hers to ask if he remembers his promise that he would never teach necromancy to their young son. Duke Saxon confirms it, letting her sigh in relief. He suggests they pivot to planning Dale's birthday gift for tomorrow, but a chaotic crash cuts them off. A panicked maid bursts right inside, calling frantically for the master. Young Dale is causing chaos in the study. They rush over and find the boy sitting on the floor, surrounded by a glowing magic circle rising from his book. His mother rushes forward, terrified, asking if he's hurt. Dale quickly reassures her he is completely fine. Saxon senses the heavy, surging mana in the room, realizing with absolute shock that his young son has already awakened his internal mana. At only 8, but get this, Dale desperately scrambles to make up an excuse, terrified they might suspect his past, but the Duke isn't suspicious at all. Instead, he looks incredibly proud, ruffling his hair and praising his talent. He only regrets that he cannot teach him necromancy. His mother gently smiles, sending Dale back to his room, while servants rush to clean the entire mess. Once the boy leaves, Alan calls his wife's name. A perfect gift idea just hit him. Later on, Dale's massive birthday banquet brings together every influential noble in the entire territory. Every single guest is dying to see the legendary Prodigy, but upstairs, far away from all the loud chatter, our hero is lost in thought. He finds the party completely exhausting, knowing everyone is gathered just for him after a life of being coddled and fussed over like this feels incredibly weird to him. On top of that, he's still carrying lingering anxiety from that little accident a few days back. His mana went completely haywire from just the leftover remnants of his former life as a hero. There is no denying this new body of his possesses a terrifying natural talent for necromancy. The best move is to convince his father to train him. In fact, Dale thinks he might as well ask for lessons as his birthday present instead of some pointless toy. But then his mother walks in apologizing for the delay. She is dressed in stunning robes and is accompanied by a hooded figure. Dale senses the strange presence and asks who this guest is. She is a wise elf elder from the Blue Magic Tower, Lady Sephia. A master of water magic, Alina proudly explains that she will be Dale's new mentor. His parents literally gifted him a legendary master for his birthday. The underlying message here is crystal clear. His mother wants her son to focus on water magic, specializing in defense and interruption. Dark magic is completely off the table. With a warm, gentle smile, Lady Sephia requests to speak with Dale in private. The two step aside, and she explains that while his parents only authorized water magic, she knows full well that the young boy has his eyes on an entirely different category of magic. It is only natural that the son of the Black Duke would crave to learn necromancy, but there is a famous condition known across the Empire. In the past, Alina was terrified of Alan's dark, ominous reputation. To win her heart, he swore an oath that his dark legacy would never be passed down to the next generation. On the day of their wedding, every single elder from the Black Tower wore pure white robes instead of black. This entire marriage was built on that very promise. Convincing Lady Alina is not going to be easy. Sephia smiles and asks if the young boy will accept her as his teacher. Dale asks if she is not wary of dark magic since elves supposedly value the natural order above all else. His question simply makes her laugh. Sephia points out the sacred power of high priests who resurrect the dead, which also goes directly against nature. To her, necromancy is no different. Dale suddenly realizes this elf is nothing like the typical strict orthodox elves. She might actually be an incredible mentor, far better than he ever expected. Ready to begin, she mentions hearing all about the partial mana circle he managed to form a few days ago. The initial goal is to expand that tiny fragment into a fully completed first circle, which is absolutely crucial for any type of casting. She tells Dale to place his hand over his chest and focus his mind, sensing the world's raw mana is unlike absolutely anything he experienced in his past life, unless you are a dragon. Controlling raw magic is essentially impossible. To properly filter and refine that wild power, you need a stable mana circle spinning around your heart. Dale begins focusing on the flow of energy, letting it guide right toward his chest. Sephia warns they will start slowly. Normally, the whole process takes about a full month, leaving plenty of time. But then Dale opens his hand and effortlessly conjures a swirling ball of mana. She freezes in sheer disbelief. A child shouldn't be able to manifest a complete circle in minutes. Sephia asks if he can release magical power through the circle. Dale says he'll try. In his past life, he relied entirely on runic engravings etched across his skin to fight. But this current vessel draws in mana naturally, which might let him release it freely. He wants to learn more than water magic. Suddenly, a circle takes shape. Dale concentrates intensely. A sharp projectile forms right between his hands. Sephia freezes in disbelief. Normally, magical forms collapse easily. The condensing process usually ruins it, but the boy aims anyway. He fires. The massive tree trunk explodes into tiny, flying splinters. The sharp strike cuts clean through the entire wood, an impossible feat. Not from an 8-year-old child. Sephia stares with wide, shocked eyes. She looks at him. Dale just waves back with a cheerful, innocent smile. Just what kind of monster is this kid? Sephia keeps staring at the shattered tree, still stunned. She tries to process the scene. It was basic magic, yet perfect. Wait, can we talk about how insane that execution was? Dale, though, looks worried. He thinks he did something wrong. The teacher quickly smiles to soothe him. She keeps her face calm, but her inner thoughts are racing in absolute panic. Rotation, acceleration, and compression, the legendary trinity. These are the gold standards, yet an 8-year-old just mastered them. To execute all three with such flawless precision is truly insane. Safia shrugs it off as nothing, but in her heart she knows. She finally understands why the Black Archmage had so many deep regrets. Later, Safia sits down with Saxon and Alan. The Duke is visibly displeased. He demands to know why she refuses to keep teaching young Dale. The elf explains, the moment he reached the first circle, he succeeded. He cast a perfect spell. It is impossible for his age. His magic held all three basic formulas. The talent is undeniable. The Duke frowns. Even as a tower elder, she cannot teach him. Safia takes a sip of tea. That is not the issue here at all. If anything, this incredible display made her want to teach him even more. Alan asks why she is refusing then. The elf answers plainly. The young master already knows exactly what he wants to master. And that is dark magic. She knows about Saxon's secret promise. But a promise to a late wife cannot justify holding back a prodigy. No one has the right to interfere with his future. Meanwhile, just outside the door, Dale is listening closely. He cannot hear everything, but he understands. He never expected his very first spell to cause such a storm. The lesson is clear. From now on, he must hide his power. Suddenly, a loud voice calls his name, breaking his train of thought. Dale smiles instantly before turning around. He knows exactly who it is. It is his uncle Helmet. The man asks what he is doing. Dale dodges the question, asking how he has been. Helmet laughs happily. He hugs him tightly, bragging about slaying monsters to protect the border. Dale excitedly asks about the dungeons, but his smile hides deep worry. In this world, dungeons are a constant, terrifying threat to everyone. Ever since the dark era of the Demon King, destruction is everywhere. It is up to brave knights to clear out the active dungeons. Unfortunately, the Saxon dukedom sits right in the heart of the danger. The absolute worst situations, all because of Dale himself. In his past life, he was the one who actually killed the Demon King. As a reward, the Duke of Saxon received new imperial lands, along with the dirty work of clearing out the dangerous monsters. Infesting them, Dale quietly asks his uncle to be careful and not get hurt. The conversation is cut short by the Duke, who remarks that Helmet worked especially hard this time. Then Alina appears, pretty surprised to find everyone gathered. When she sees Dale, she smiles and warmly congratulates him. She was happy to hear her son had reached the first magic circle. Alan also congratulates the boy and tells him that if he wants anything, he just has to ask. Dale puts a hand to his chin, knowing that asking to learn necromancy is completely out of the question. What would an 8-year-old child actually ask for? Then he suddenly shouts that he wants a little sister. The couple completely freezes. Helmet can barely hold back his laughter, and one of his soldiers whispers that the captain really should not be laughing in such an awkward situation. The Duke, his expression still locked in place, says he will try to make that happen. Later, lying in bed, Dale thinks he needs to act pure and innocent, behaving in line with the age he appears to be. He is pretty tired, probably from the effort of using magic. Sleep comes incredibly fast. And with it the nightmares. He sees Count Brandenburg. The man remarks in that cold voice of his that it has been a while since they last met, and then grabs him tightly by the hair. He says people are strange, that they grow weak so easily, that Dale now has good parents, a comfortable home, a full stomach, that he should not be thinking about revenge, and that soon the Empire will find him and make him disappear from this world completely. Dale suddenly jolts awake. There is a strange, sharp pain in his chest. His heart is pounding too hard, like it might burst. Mana reflux, he has definitely heard of it before. As he presses his hand against his chest, a dull anger toward the imperialists rises inside him. Honestly, people like that never give up. He goes out looking for fresh air, thinking it might help, but the more he walks, the worse the pain gets. Sefia finds him along the way and immediately understands what is happening. She identifies the mana reflux, something to be expected in a child with that much talent, and places her hand on his chest to help him. As she works to ease the pain, she thinks that if this child falls into malice, he becomes something irreversible. Like magic, the reflux stops. Sefia gets the boy's attention, explaining that the essence of magic is a mirror of the heart. The same spell changes depending on who casts it, and Dale's talent is far too dangerous to be left without guidance. That is why she believes she is the only one who can Help him, then she hands him a book on necromancy. With a smile, she says that their meeting must have been the work of fate, and she wishes the boy a happy birthday. Dale hugs her with everything he has. A few days later, master and student are gathered on a plain to the north, watching a small rabbit ahead of them. Sephia tells Dale to imagine he is hunting with his father. The boy starts gathering mana. The rabbit senses it is being watched, but the magic circle has already formed in the boy's palm. The strike fires like a sharp projectile and hits the creature with a loud crack. Sephia watches the boy's fingers. They do not tremble, not even after taking a life. The teacher then explains that the exact same magic can take completely different forms depending on who uses it. Sephia asks if he knows why, but she explains before he can even answer. She says magic is a mirror of the heart, materializing whatever lies inside the mind. Even spell names like Firewall only exist to help the caster form an image. Dale listens closely, feeling a bit uneasy as Sephia continues her explanation. The red tower values order through raw power, while the blue tower favors harmony. Their spells reflect these core philosophies, shaping their entire magic systems. She watches her student closely to see if he's actually following along. He is completely focused, hanging on every word, but she knows the truth. It is still way too early for him to truly absorb all of this. Shifting to practice, she explains that the most basic necromancy is simple zombification. A purple energy wraps around the dead rabbit, reanimating its lifeless body. This lets the caster control it with mana threads, just like a puppet. Thin lines of energy attach directly to the rabbit's head, spine, and knees. Dale handles it easily, so Sephia tells him to try the next step. The boy concentrates deeply, placing his hand flat onto the dirt. A cold wave surges outward, coating the area in ice as the rabbit rises. Fully armored in ice, Sephia decides to test the summon's defensive strength. Dale braces himself, anticipating her strike as she casts a quick spell. The rabbit is blasted back, but a solid chunk of ice armor remains intact. Dale cheers. He actually managed to block a hit from his master. Impressed, Sephia praises him, but notices he is hesitating to say something. She asks if he has a request, and Dale places a hand over his chest. He looks her dead in the eye, begging her to teach him water magic. Sephia keeps her calm smile, but her answer is a flat, immediate no. She explains that what he just pulled off was already basic water magic. That entire category demands an incredibly high level of dimensional understanding. It is infinitely more complex than anything else a beginner should try. Even normal magic drains a novice, and becoming a dual mage is brutal. She gently warns him that he might be aiming a bit too high. Dale is stunned. Even after showing off his talent, she still doubts him. Disappointed, he looks down, muttering that they need to grow stronger together. Sephia starts to explain herself, but decides to just end the lesson instead. That very night, Dale sneaks into the study to grab some magic books. He begins studying alone, determined to prove he can handle dual casting. If he shows her real results, she will have no choice but to help. Pulling an all-nighter, he shows up the next morning looking completely exhausted. Sephia warns him not to push so hard, and he quietly nods. He immediately begins channeling a glowing purple magic circle in his hand. Within seconds, he summons another dead rabbit, perfectly encased in thick ice. Sephia is stunned by his rapid progress, but the real shocker is next. The ice armor suddenly starts cracking, completely shattering with a loud blast. But the spell isn't broken. The rabbit is still standing right there. Its belly begins to bloat as a strange purple sphere glows inside. The small body violently convulses, right before bursting into a bloody mess. Shards of ice fly through the air, striking her defensive field. Sephia stares at her student, completely stunned. Meanwhile, Dale calmly explains that it is a combination of corpse explosion and ice explosion. Fusing water magic and dark magic, then he looks directly at his teacher, asking if he counts as a dual mage now. Around them, the training ground is covered in debris left behind by the blast. Sephia stands. They're wide-eyed, having never seen an attack like that before. This combination of ice armor and corpse explosion created a devastating area of effect, far greater than either spell on its own, with ice and bone shards. Behaving like actual blades, it is a technique made purely to kill. Something you only learn on a bloody battlefield, the elf wonders about. What goes on inside the kid's head? Dale watches her closely, trying to read his teacher's reaction. Just then, Uncle Helmet arrives on horseback. Waving to both of them, he mentions there was only a small group of monsters in the dungeon, making it an easy warm-up. For the Black Cavalry, the ultimate fighting force of House Saxton, this unit dominates the battlefield with aura-wrapped lances, led by the elite Sir Helmet, recognized as one of the 7 strongest swords on the continent. Dale smiles, asking his uncle if he forgot his promise to train him. Helmet laughs and says the kid can visit whenever he wants, but warns that it is freezing and they should head home. Sephia agrees, and the three of them wrap up. That night, the elven teacher drinks tea while talking with Alina and the Duke, explaining that young Master Dale mastered both the first circle of necromancy and water magic. The Duke is stunned. The deal was different. Only water magic was planned. Sephia acknowledges this but stands her ground, stating that as a teacher, she taught what the boy wanted to learn. Water was never his only goal. Alina says she understands her son's drive, but begs the elf to prioritize water magic. Sephia agrees, hoping they will get along well going forward, but before leaving, she stops by the door and looks back, apologizing to Alina for causing her to break her promise to the Black Duke. Alina replies that she knows her boy is extraordinary. Seriously, a dual mage at only 8 years old. That is absolutely insane. The Duke's expression shifts. He lowers his head, speaking softly. As a lord, he wants to personally teach necromancy to his son, so the boy will have the power to carry out his duties as heir. As a mage, he wants a truly powerful disciple, and as a father, he wants to pass everything down to his boy. Alan asks his wife for forgiveness. Alina embraces him, acknowledging that necromancy is widely taboo. People associate it with death, which is why she tried to stop it, but now she wants her husband to train their son until the boy is strong enough to silence the doubters. The couple share a tender embrace as the mood grows lighter. With a warm smile, the Duke vows to bet everything on raising their son to greatness, and so the boy's first official day of necromancy training begins. Facing his son, Duke Alan doesn't hide his disappointment. He heard that Dale had been raising corpses blindly without understanding his own magic. The boy keeps quiet, silently thinking to himself that his own master was the one who taught him. He had no other choice anyway. Right now, they stand in the dark magic workshop deep within the basement. Alan warns that as long as Dale remains his disciple, he must never use such sloppy, mediocre necromancy. The brutal training starts with memorizing the complete anatomy of every single living beast. Trapped among massive piles of dusty books, Dale accepts the grueling training. After days of study, he realizes these texts contain deep medical secrets that, in his past life, only highly trained doctors could ever access. Once he memorizes every single detail, the Duke announces they can finally move forward to a real practical lesson. Suddenly, Dale's eyes widen. No way. Right on the table is a dead goblin. Alan watches his son's massive shock, stating that a master mage can easily turn any simple soldier's body into a terrifying death knight. He then directly asks how the boy plans to control it. Dale reaches out, immediately breaking into a cold sweat. Unlike a rabbit, bipedal corpse is vastly more complicated. There are far too many points where his mana threads must connect. Straining hard, he tries to force the goblin's rigid hand to move, but it is like pulling incredibly stiff puppet strings. Worse yet, he had sped up rigor mortis to boost its defenses, meaning the target is now so rigid it can barely budge. He is completely lost, until his father gently rests a hand on his shoulder, saying that hardening the corpse to boost resistance was actually a clever tactic, but it also heavily restricts how the body moves. With his eyes shining, he instructs the boy to pay close attention. Deep purple energy starts to spill from the Duke. Suddenly, the goblin stands straight, controlled with absolute precision. Slowly, the monster's ribcage begins to shift. The bone structure that once shielded vital organs now takes on a deadly new purpose. For the dead, there is no reason to protect anything. Everything can be weaponized for raw offense. Alan explains that fully mastering the physical form lets you reshape it however you want. Young Dale watches a terrifying display in absolute wonder. The Duke cuts his mana, stating this is the very baseline of dark sorcery. Intrigued, Dale speaks up and asks him to explain the deeper philosophy of the Black Tower. Such sudden curiosity from his son makes Alan smile. Raising one hand, the Duke begins his lesson. Truth always exists within death. Therefore, every practitioner must comprehend it entirely if they want to reach that Truth and grasp the weight of life. His words stir something inside Dale, memories of his past life resurface, back when he was a knight forced to slaughter countless men. His blade was constantly soaked in blood, swung repeatedly just to take another life. Every blow brought agony and sorrow. Suddenly, Dale is lost in those grim thoughts. Noting his silence, Alan asks if he is doing okay. The kid turns incredibly pale. The vivid image of a soldier sheathing a weapon after taking a life still haunts his mind. Still, he softly replies that he is fine, as Dale's magical talent expanded. Grim rumors began spreading across the Empire. Wild whispers claimed that Duke Saxon was secretly training his young boy in dark magic. Furthermore, their broken family agreement only worsened the scandal, sending shockwaves directly through the nobility. From that moment on, the entire empire watched the young boy without rest. But Dale never stopped training, working hard under his uncle Helmet's strict guidance. He practiced his sword techniques relentlessly, and the knight never held back. The boy met every heavy blow with absolute intensity, while Helmet watched closely. A proud smile crossed the knight's face as his nephew's reflexes grew sharper. Suddenly, Helmet raised his blade and launched a much more serious attack. Dale barely avoided the strike, immediately launching a fast counterattack of his own. He struck with perfect precision, knocking the heavy weapon clean out of Helmet's grip. The sword spun through the air before embedding itself deeply into the dirt. Helmet burst out laughing, deeply impressed by the boy's incredible reaction. Dale replied that his uncle went easy on him, since a master wouldn't drop their blade so easily. Helmet laughed and explained he used practical combat techniques, meaning any normal fighter would have died instantly. He confessed the boy's natural talent was so high, it felt like a complete waste for him to focus on magic, though mages usually rely entirely on elite guards and barriers. There was no need to push himself so hard, risking serious injuries, but Dale simply replied that he had a personal reason for pushing himself, adding it would be pathetic if a duke's son relied solely on guards, making Helmet grin with pride. The knight placed a hand on the boy's head, praising his splendid resolve, wishing he had a son like him. Before their conversation was suddenly interrupted by Alina. She walked over with a warm smile, teasing that they seemed to be having far too much fun during training. She came to check on him, while also carrying some very special news, asking if he remembered the unique birthday present he had once requested. Dale frowned, searching his mind until the childhood memory suddenly rushed back. He had wanted a little sister. Now, Alina placed a hand on her stomach. She told him he must take wonderful care of his new sibling. With shining eyes, the boy clasped his hands and promised he would. 10 months later, the happy family gathered around their precious new addition. Dale gently poked the baby's soft cheek, barely believing this was his sister. Alina smiled, inviting him to hold her since it was quite easy. As he carefully took the baby in his arms, Dale studied her tiny face. He focused completely on her, while Alina noted the newborn had cried constantly when her father held her, but felt completely safe in her brother's arms. When asked what he thought, the boy confessed she felt incredibly light. And yet she felt immensely heavy. Hearing this, the Duke closed his eyes and smiled, calling it the weight of a life, before leaning down to look his son in the eye, urging him to never forget this. Elaine then interrupted, reminding them that Lady Sephia was already waiting for his lesson. The elf explained that today they would focus entirely on practical magic. Dale was thrilled, and she encouraged him to use every bit of his power. Watch this. The young prodigy conjures a glowing magic circle in his palm. His teacher watched with a curious smile, eager to witness his growth. Dale summoned a sharp ice projectile, launching it directly toward her, but for an opening move, it was far too slow, and she easily blocked it. With a sarcastic smile, she asks how a student dares to go easy on his own master. Dale stares back with a dead serious expression. Sephia immediately launches her counterattack and orders him to raise a barrier. The boy's eyes widen, unable to react. In time, the strike hits his arm with full force, but thanks to his insane speed, he manages to conjure ice armor at the exact moment of impact, saving him from a serious injury. Right after the ice armor begins to shatter, his master watches. Impressed by the quick defense, she tells him to try again, and Dale begins building a complex molecular combination based on his ice wall formula. Around him, a crystalline barrier takes shape. Sephia is genuinely surprised by the massive size of the structure. The boy has reinforced the molecular bonds of the ice, drastically increasing its density and making it as tough as steel. His teacher steps closer and places her hand on the frozen surface, questioning why he would conjure this specific defense right now. She wonders if the boy just needs a moment to recover from her last attack. Then a strange sound echoes nearby, like the start of a massive glacial explosion. Inside his frozen barrier, Dale is completely focused. In the very next instant, he triggers the detonation. A blinding, intense light begins forming deep within the structure. Sephia's eyes widen. Before she can even react, razor-sharp shards of ice shoot out in her direction like a devastating storm of blades. Ice barrier shatters, and Dale knows he has pulled it off. The technique he used was a brutal combination, a reinforced ice barrier with a built-in explosive charge, making it practically a grenade. This time, he is absolutely sure his master cannot dodge it easily, but then something stops him dead in his tracks. Sephia stands right in front of him, her body completely riddled with holes. Dale takes a second to process the horror, but the real Sephia is standing just behind her copy, completely unharmed. What he actually hit was nothing but a clever illusion. With a snap of her fingers, she dissolves the copy with a smile, praising his impressive skill. She admits she never would have expected such a trick from a mere first circle mage, and that under different circumstances, she might have actually gotten hurt. Dale quickly lowers his head, apologizing that this was never his intention. Sephia assures him she knows. Even so, she is incredibly proud of him, crouching down to look the boy in the eyes. She tells him this proves he trusts her enough to show her everything he has, and as his master, she cannot be happier. She also praises him for crafting such an incredibly powerful custom formula. Dale humbly replies that all of it is thanks to her guidance. Sephia smiles warmly, watching the disciple who's growing so well right before her eyes. Sometime later, Sephia is in a study talking with Duke Allen. He asks what happened to her jaw. The teacher explains she got hurt during a lesson with her talented student. Allen smiles, noting that the kid always seems to cause trouble for her. The elf replies that teaching her disciple could never be a problem. On the contrary, it only brings her pure joy. Shifting the topic, Allen mentions a serious request. Word has arrived that an orc horde has crossed the mountain and invaded their territory. This is not something a small cavalry unit can handle, and Sephia instantly understands what this means. A cold chill runs through her, and she asks uneasily if they are actually planning to send Dale to the battlefield. Allen denies it, stating the boy Allen simply was not ready for that yet, refusing to send his own son to the front lines. Yet it was the Saxon family duty to take absolute responsibility for their own ancestral territory, and Dale was the eldest. Sephia knew her apprentice was no ordinary child. Allen asked what she suggested, thinking a powerful artifact might help the boy control his power. Lending his son an artifact seemed smart, offering a way to stabilize his wild energy. But artifacts of that caliber carried immense force, acting as highly dangerous weapons. They demanded absolute talent from whoever wielded them. Such items activated with mana, or sometimes at the direct cost of one's own life. The stronger the item, the harder the control. In the worst case, it was fatal. The Saxon family had dealt with this terrifying, dark power for many generations. And because of that, the duchy kept a massive stockpile of these dangerous relics. As the eldest son, Dale had to prepare for the upcoming clash. He was genuinely shocked to learn he would finally join the real fight. His father explained he would join the subjugation of the massive orc horde. But before facing that threat, the father and son walked up to a massive door. Dale needed to master the signature shadow power unique to the Saxon bloodline. As he stepped inside, the boy's eyes went wide with pure astonishment. The vault was massive, packed with artifacts left behind by the Demon King. The family preserved these relics for generations. They were absolutely not ordinary weapons. Each relic pulsed with an overwhelming dark magical power. Dale was warned. The stronger the artifact, the more dangerous it would be to handle. Seriously, do not touch. But when the adults turned to keep explaining, they realized Dale was gone. The curious boy had already wandered off alone. Wandering through the glowing relics, Dale searched for a weapon that suited him. Then a sinister voice echoed from a shield, asking if he wanted revenge. The voice claimed to feel the deep hatred and pain within his soul. Soon other whispering voices followed, coming from every dark artifact in the room. They all clamored at once. Dale slowly brought a trembling hand to his chest. These cursed relics were reacting to the hatred inside him, yet none of them fit. He needed something far more devastating to truly satisfy his thirst for power. Then as he walked deeper, he spotted a strange cloak, and get ready, this is the one. It seemed to appear out of nowhere. Dale studied the fabric closely. He recognized it immediately, the legendary Shadow Cloak, a high-tier magical artifact. It once belonged to Duke Berta, a powerful captain of the demon army. Dale had actually fought this commander in his past life as the hero. The cloak could merge with shadows, making its wearer almost impossible to hit. No hesitation, Dale tested it just as his father and Sephia arrived. Both Alan and Sephia called out in worry, but the cloak already wrapped around him completely, hiding him from their sight. Suddenly, Dale was pulled into the artifact's dark inner space. A voice began to echo, repeating its endless hunger. This was no ordinary shadow. In the past, its wearer controlled living shadows. But to wield such power, one had to fully conquer the entity inside. Unsurprisingly, subjugating this dark beast would not be an easy task. Cold sweat broke out. Outside, Alan and Sephia watched as a massive purple aura erupted where the cloak was. Sephia realized what was happening. It was taking too long. Alan warned that if it dragged on, the monster would consume him. Sephia grew pretty tense, asking what they would do if that actually happened. Alan replied that they would have to force him out, but right then, a sudden, blinding light burst. The room flooded with blinding light, and Dale stepped out completely unharmed. Smiling, he said everything was fine. Sephia rushed over immediately. She checked him over, but he explained he only felt a slight tingling. He was fine, completely fine, but Alan only frowned, deeply puzzled. How could a kid master such power? Dale approached his father with gleaming eyes. With gleaming eyes, the boy asked if he could try picking up another one. That sudden excitement caught them completely off guard. Still, Alan allowed it, marking the start of Dale's exploration through the massive vault. After checking the stockpile, Dale went to train with his uncle a few days later. Wearing the shadow cloak, the boy left Helmet utterly shocked by the sight. He quickly asked if the young master was truly all right wearing that dangerous thing. It was hard to control, famously hard, but Dale just smiled. He said it only felt a bit itchy, guessing the cloak had lost some power over time. But the moment it sensed his energy, it latched onto him immediately. Honestly, it was like the dark artifact just wanted to be friends. Yet a dense black aura pulsed heavily beneath his feet as he walked. Smiling, Dale thanked his uncle for trusting him and made a sudden request. He wanted a real duel for combat training. Excited, Helmet took his stance. He promised to give his absolute best so he wouldn't disappoint his nephew. Suddenly, the pressure hit. Dale finally felt his uncle's true weight. Standing near one of the continents, 7 top swordsmen felt heavy. The pressure was insane on his body. Helmet just smiled, telling him not to worry. He promised to use pure swordsmanship without tapping into his aura. That actually irritated Dale. To him, a true knight always fought with everything. Still, the goal of this clash was clear: learn how to use the shadow cloak. Depending on how he performed, the artifact's true potential would show itself. To unlock its power, intense training was the only path. Dale stepped forward. He extended his arms, firing a burst of sharp shadow blades. Helmet reacted instantly. He delivered a swift strike, shattering the entire dark attack instantly. No aura, pure power. Dale was left completely speechless. Helmet laughed, praised the boy's effort, and lunged forward, saying it was his turn. Dale scrambled back with a tense face, barely dodging a lightning-fast strike. Helmet watched closely, fascinated by how the boy moved. He realized the dark aura could actually set up sneaky traps. Still, Dale's defense wasn't perfect. Helmet leaped high, bringing down a massive blow. Dale barely extended his hands in time, blocking the strike with visible struggle. But he blocked it. The impact sent him sliding backward, his aura still pulsing. Helmet frowned, impressed. That heavy blow should have shattered anything. Normal swords would shatter. Only a high-tier artifact could survive. Helmet announced they would exchange 10 more strikes, and he wouldn't hold back. After their intense training session, the watching knights couldn't help but gossip. They whispered that none of them had ever lasted more than 2 exchanges. Exchanges against the captain. Even as a young boy, Dale stood like an immovable mountain. A few days later, on the morning of departure, Dale talks with his mother. Alina admits that no matter how hard she tries to accept it, she cannot bring herself to feel at ease sending her son to such a dangerous place. Honestly, who wouldn't worry? But Helmet and his father will be by his side, but she remains uneasy. He explains how he feels. He wants to grow Stronger so that one day he can inherit the dukedom. When that moment comes, he wants to be ready to protect his father, his mother, and his sister Lies. He asks her to let him grow strong enough for that, with tears welling in her eyes. Lena accepts. She only asks that he be careful. Dale mounts his horse and promises he will be back soon. At dawn, at the forward base, Helmut leads a large formation of knights. Alan turns to his son, asking him to give the order to march himself. He explains that the Black Cavalry will one day be under Dale's command, so it is better to start getting used to leading them. Dale takes. In those words, those knights are not his father's, they are his, raising his hand. The boy declares it is time to move out, riding with pride to defend House Saxon. The knights raise their weapons and answer that they will follow the young master's orders. Then all of them ride out at full gallop toward the battlefield. For this battle, 250 knights have been assembled along with an elite marksman unit, positioned in the White Mountains, the Winter Watchers. On the other side, a horde of roughly 1,000 orcs. They cross the upper part of the Saxon River, fleeing the cold and hunger, soon pushing into the lower region. The plan is to launch a surprise attack before that happens, but the only way for 250 men to cross a deep river quickly is through magic. Sephia steps forward and asks everyone to fall back. She begins casting the spell, announcing she will create a massive ice bridge. Dale is glad to see his master here, but quickly realizes how much this must cost her, a woman who follows a doctrine against violence, right in the middle of a military campaign, pouring all her power into. Sephia raises a massive ice bridge, solid enough to hold the entire army. The path is open. The elf says she is rooting for the Duke's victory. Alan thanks her as always. Dale looks at his master warmly, saying his goodbye. Sephia brings her hand to her heart. Something unsettled stirs inside her as she watches her disciple leave. Her eyes fill with tears. She never imagined she would have a disciple who cared so much about her. Sometime later, we see the orcs' temporary base. The scout unit, the Winter Watchers, is already in position for the ambush. Suddenly, fire arrows tear through the sky like fireworks raining down on the enemy camp. The orcs are caught completely off guard. Many die before they can even react, and the ground quickly fills with bodies. Helmut orders the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Cavalry battalions to advance. The knights charge out in wedge formation. As he watches the charge, Helmut asks what Dale thinks of it. The boy, however, is lost in his own thoughts, analyzing the horse's speed, the weight of the armor. The crouching lance strategy, a tactic capable of piercing the enemy's defense while keeping a distance of 3 to 4 meters, even deadlier when combined with. Observing the knight's aura, Dale remarks that the onslaught is completely one-sided. Helmut nods, calling it the true strength of the ducal cavalry, but warns against dropping their guard. After all, the real battle is only beginning. Suddenly, the orcs regroup and march forward, lifting massive shields and pointed spears. The initial ambush hit hard, but it did not finish them. Now they must retreat, reform their lines, and crush them with another wave. A bright signal flare shoots up, ordering a retreat. The human forces disengage. In an instant, their mounts galloping away. This leaves the beasts utterly baffled. But that brief confusion quickly twists into pure, violent rage. As the soldiers ride away, the monsters level their heavy weapons. One spear flies and impales the horse. The beast collapses, sending the rider crashing down. Dale watches this happen. He tenses up, realizing the danger, even without severe injuries. The soldier is still breathing, but his commander already considers him gone. A beast charges forward to finish the job. Dale turns, demanding why his family is simply standing by. The two elders exchange silent, knowing looks, offering no answers. The young heir immediately begins to calculate, galloping down there would take far too long. He needs a ranged spell, but monster hide is incredibly thick. To penetrate it, his spell formula requires a swift adjustment. Modifying his standard ice bolt, the boy integrates a long-range firing mechanism modeled after a modern assault rifle, dramatically increasing both speed and piercing power. He shapes his fingers like a gun, taking dead aim at the executioner who is closing in on the helpless soldier. The monster raises its heavy blade for a final blow. Dale fires. The projectile strikes square in the creature's forehead. Helmut gasps. From this distance, that accuracy is absolutely unreal. And get this, the boy is already riding out. The Duke tells Helmut to stand down. Designing such a complex spell shows immense lethality and proves the boy possesses the cold resolve needed for real combat. With a completely focused look, he enters the fray. The beastly forces have reformed and another giant brute rushes him. Now he faces two problems. First, the stranded soldier is paralyzed with fear and cannot stand up. Second, his current spell takes too long to cast up close. He must simplify the process. Racing forward, his mind quickly constructs a new variation. Aiming for speed, a rapid, direct shot, incredibly complex yet battle-ready. The spell solidifies, forming a dense ice bullet, the trapped soldier spots the young heir riding in, so does his attacker, right. At the perfect moment, the boy fires. The projectile cuts a sharp path straight through the target's skull, dropping him instantly. The stunned soldier stares at his young savior, asking why he would risk his life to save him. Dale steps off his mount and approaches with a calm expression. Do not worry. He says the Saxon house never abandons any blade that displays true loyalty. The knight struggles to stand as two more snarling beasts ambush them, but he has no intention of letting them get close. Stretching out his hand, he unleashes his hidden shadow blades. A violent purple energy sweeps through the clearing, instantly shattering the monster weapons. Flaunting a cold, arrogant grin, the young heir commands his dark power to consume them. In the white emptiness, a sphere of purple energy wraps around its body before it falls, part crashing down lifeless beside the other orc. Within seconds, the remains turn into a skeleton under the boy's necromancy magic. Dale smiles and wonders out loud why the other beasts haven't run. To wrap things up, he shoots one last ice bullet. With the battle finished, the young boy faces the soldier, who is still panicking, and reassures him everything is fine. The man replies that his legs won't move. Dale quickly sizes up the situation and acts without hesitation. Using power that is pretty crazy for an 8-year-old, he lifts the soldier and carries him off. He says he'll leave the rest in Uncle Helmet's hands. Helmet grins at the sight, ordering every single battalion to charge forward in a massive simultaneous assault. Driven by sky-high morale, the warriors sprint forward with a fierce battle cry, all for their young master Dale. Bit later, back at the Saxon camp, the orc extermination is officially confirmed to be over. The Duke summons his son to ask him a direct question. He wants to know the actual reason why the boy ran into enemy lines alone. Visibly annoyed, the father faces Dale, demanding to know why he would do something so reckless. Dale is completely lost and sweating, unable to understand why he is getting lectured. Still, the boy explains why he charged straight into enemy lines alone. After all, the Knights of House Saxon will one day serve under his command. That is why he did what he believed was right in that critical moment. The Duke sighs, calling that excuse far too weak. Dale pushes back, pointing out that his own father is famous for valuing his knights, so why did he just stand there and watch one of them die? Alan explains that the knights of the northern border never expect to be saved. On the battlefield, each warrior must think and act on their own to survive. Anyone who hesitates while waiting for someone to come and rescue them simply won't last long. The soldiers need to hone their skills constantly, and their leader only steps in when the enemy is beyond what they can handle. Dale realizes he has absolutely no way to argue. With that, feeling a heavy weight in his chest, he realizes he had forgotten a truth he had carried deep within himself in another life. Even so, after the stern reprimand, his father gently places a hand on his shoulder. He admits that the boy acted on his convictions and says, "That is a trait that must never be lost." The Duke opens the tent, letting warm sunlight pour in, and asks them to head back to the castle. The story of the young master rushing to save a soldier was exactly what the Empire's gossips absolutely lived for. One rumor even claimed out loud that the young boy had defeated over 1,000 orcs all on his own. The story spread like wildfire. Dale found the whole thing incredibly embarrassing, but the event ended up bringing a new wave of energy to the duchy. Some time later, on the training grounds, the knights began treating him almost like a deity. Quite embarrassed, the boy kept insisting they did not need to act like that. Helmet disagreed, saying it was something to be proud of and that Dale should embrace it. Raising his hand to rally the troops, he declared that this kind of pride only made them stronger. And sure enough, the soldiers' morale was visibly rising. That was when a maid approached to announce that the guests from House Oralhart were about to arrive. Dale offered his thanks, and the two of them prepared to head out. The boy knew he would soon meet some pretty important people. House Oralhart was famous as a warrior family, once a great noble house in the kingdom. of Teutonia led by Barthel, but during the unification Teutonia fell. With the death of the divine sword, the family was ruined. Helmet seemed downcast, likely thinking of the very man who inspired him to become a knight, a memory that still carried a pretty bitter taste. When they reached the main hall where Dale's parents were already waiting, the Duke asked if the boy had been keeping up with his training. Dale confirmed it. Then a butler announced the guests, and Alan ordered everyone to treat them with absolute respect. A woman, dressed in mourning clothes, approached, accompanied by a small blonde girl. The woman introduced herself as Vanessa Orlhart, greeting the Duke of Saxon with deep humility. The girl, however, stood completely still. Vanessa glanced back with a disapproving look and introduced her daughter, Charlotte Orlhart, who was clearly unhappy with all of this. Dale was surprised to see Charlotte question her own mother right then and there. The girl asked what kind of behavior that was, asking why she was bowing to these people. The Duke tried to ease the tension, saying they had just made a long, exhausting journey. He then asked Dale to accompany Lady Charlotte and show her around the castle. With a friendly smile, the boy extended his hand, inviting her along. Charlotte looked at him with a freezing stare and slapped his hand away hard. Dale was totally stunned, feeling the sting in his palm. The Duke and Alina were also caught completely off guard. Charlotte seemed to realize she went too far, but she did not apologize. She remarked in a dry tone that this kind of behavior was typical of uneducated imperial nobles. Her mother immediately ordered her to apologize. Charlotte simply turned her back and kept walking. Desperate, Vanessa called out for her to wait. Turning to the couple, she begged them to forgive her daughter's rudeness, explaining that Charlotte did not normally act this way. She had been deeply shaken by recent events. Alina asked what had happened, and Vanessa revealed that not long ago, Count Brandenburg had been appointed as inspector of their territory. The man was known throughout the empire for his combat skill and his terrible nickname, the Pig King. Seriously, with producing a powerful heir, he hunted down talented swordsmen without regard for age or gender, even if it was a girl who had not even reached puberty. Yet, Vanessa said she managed to flee with her daughter just in time before he could get his hands on her, but she knew that kind of trauma does not simply go away. With a trembling voice, she said she would do anything to protect Charlotte. However, as a fallen noble, she had no power to do so. That was why she was begging them to take her daughter in, even as a servant. That way, that horrible man could never reach her again. Meanwhile, far from there, Dale and Charlotte were completely alone. The boy called out to her, rubbing his neck, asking if she even knew where she was going. Charlotte admitted she did not. After a brief moment, she asked if his hand was fine. Dale said it was and told her not to worry about it. Gripping her sword, the blonde said that was a relief. Then, without warning, she drew the blade and pointed it directly at him. With a sharp, demanding voice, she ordered him to duel her on the spot immediately. She barked the command like he was a mere subordinate. Dale sweat. This stubborn girl was the type who did whatever she wanted without caring. Even with her demanding a fight, Dale wanted reasons. She explained that she had heard rumors of him being an incredibly powerful wizard. Rumors about him killing over 1,000 orcs and saving knights. Classic overhyped fame. Dale knew it only brought trouble. Beating someone so highly respected would finally prove her own ultimate worth. More than that, she had to prove she could shield her loved ones from danger. Shield them from that brutal sword master, Count Brandenburg. Just hearing that name sent a cold, freezing chill straight down Dale's entire spine. He remembered him, another imperial bastard who betrayed him. But wait, could these two actually make a great team? Their goals aligned perfectly, but first, he had to give her a brutal reality check. He turned, walked over to a barrel, and grabbed a sword. He sighed, noting coldly that she still did not understand how things worked. Then he pointed the steel blade right at her, daring the blonde to strike with everything. Furious, Charlotte snapped that she did not need to be told twice. She charged like lightning, their swords clashing with a bang. Charlotte was actually pretty good, managing to pierce right through Dale's defenses a few times. Each of her heavy strikes carried an impressive aura. Knights use internal aura to shatter human limits. You could feel the massive, destructive weight behind every single strike she landed. Even so, Dale easily parried everything, barely showing any effort. She countered immediately after every single dodge, proving her legendary lineage was real. Her raw combat skill was far sharper than he expected. Duel dragged on as the metallic screech of clashing blades filled the training yard. Suddenly, Dale noticed her hidden, painful burden. Her father had died before she was born, but her mother kept his memory alive. She spoke of a divine warrior who never once surrendered. Even with their home destroyed and their family name ruined, she refused to stop. Charlotte felt forced to wield the sword in her father's place, but she simply could not comprehend why she was struggling so much against this boy. Frustrated, she threw everything she had into another desperate charge. Her blade thrust straight for his stomach, but Dale easily dodged with a quick shift. He countered instantly, violently shoving her backward. Charlotte was utterly devastated. How could the daughter of the divine sword lose like this? Dale spoke the cold truth. She was not her father. Being proud of him was fine, but her current raw strength was completely useless against real monsters. She would never protect her family from Brandenburg with this pathetic skill. Faced with the brutal reality, Charlotte broke down, tears of frustration streaming down her face. With a shaking voice, she desperately asked him what she should do. Dale turned his back on her, making a heavy, solemn promise to the weeping girl. He swore on his family name to guard House Orelhart. Until she grew strong enough to defeat him, he and his family would be her ultimate shield. He would be her shield. Shocked, she asked why, and Dale simply answered that it was because she was worth it. Then, he asked if the blonde was willing to swear that in the future she would join his family and become the sword of House Saxon. With a tearful smile, Charlotte said there was no way she could refuse such an offer. She knelt right there, and with a knight's honor she made her solemn vow. It seemed like nothing more than a simple promise between children, but that single moment sealed a promise carrying massive weight. In the future, two young prodigies had just formed a massive alliance. Later, in Duke Saxon's study, Dale spoke with his father. Alan explained that as requested, Lady Orleyhart was now part of the household as a servant. He mentioned it was quite unexpected, but when he learned Charlotte had agreed, he realized his son was behind it. Dale confirmed this, explaining further that the two of them had made a promise, and he had sworn in the name of the family to protect House Orleyhart. The Duke suspiciously asked whether that was done purely out of pity. Dale denied it, saying he had seen incredible talent in her, along with the bloodline of the divine sword, and he revealed his real goal behind the promise. One day, he wanted a new divine sword to rise alongside his family. The Duke closed his eyes, satisfied. Dale smiled, feeling his father's silent approval. Meanwhile, back in the old capital of Teutonia, Malbarak, a wine glass shattered on the floor. Count Brandenburg stood there in a fury, demanding to know how they dared to fail and how they could be tricked so easily. A soldier explained that assassins were sent but died before reaching Saxon territory. Suspicion had fallen directly on Charlotte Orleyhart. The Count closed his eyes, his irritation peaking. He muttered that they were useless, and honestly, he was right. Without a single exception, he walked toward the sword mounted on the wall and ran his hand along the sharp blade. Suddenly, he recalled a past moment on the battlefield, sliding his fingers across the cold steel. He murmured to the sword, Durendal, asking what it thought. Of all this, to him it was no mere weapon, it was his bride, and he asked her to wait just a bit longer, promising to breed the perfect bloodline to wield her once more. He turned back to the soldier, giving a new order: contact the Thieves' Guild and send them to the duchy. Immediately, with a dark smile, he made it clear he would pay any price. He wanted Charlotte back, no matter the cost. A whole week passed since their oath, and Charlotte spent every day undergoing intense training as a lady-in-waiting. Her daily duels with Dale became a routine, always under Uncle Helmut's watchful eye. Dale takes his stance with a confident smile, ready to begin, while Charlotte readies herself, looking much more on edge. Helmut closes his eyes for a brief second and signals. The swords clash almost instantly. Dale easily keeps the upper hand, dodging every strike, but Charlotte refuses to yield, and the boy notices her rapid improvement. She can already block his strikes now, and Helmut watches them both with pride. Up close, this no longer looks like a simple children's duel. The level is that of real knights, yet something feels off, an intense, dark killing intent. Both of them move with impressive speed. During their intense clash, Dale uses his cape to deflect an incoming strike. Charlotte spots a tiny gap and moves in quickly for a decisive thrust, but Helmut steps in and cuts the strike short. He praises her rapid progress, but Charlotte has absolutely no interest in cheap compliments. She tells him to save the empty words and asks what she's still missing. Helmut looks closely at her and asks if she understands the true secret of the rapier. The girl answers that it is thrusting. He disagrees, the most important part. His footwork, fluid movement, and positioning. Dale demonstrates this in real practice right now. He closes the distance, dodging every single thrust with absolute precision. At that moment, Charlotte should have stepped back, created some space, and searched for another opening, but her stance is still uneven, even sloppy, since she never had a proper teacher. The fundamentals must be rebuilt entirely from scratch. The criticism clearly gets to Charlotte. Noticing her mood, Dale ruffles her hair, saying he was just teasing. She is pretty cute after all. The heavy mood lightens up. Forming a proper mana circle is a remarkably slow, complex process. A mages must feel the flow of energy around the heart and wait until a stable root forms. It can take decades. Sephia asks Dale if he has already finished the second circle. The boy quietly confirms that he has. The rotation speed of mana is measured in rotations per minute. First circle mages usually hit around 300 rotations, but Dale is well above that, showing he already has what it takes to break through to the third circle. Even so, he chooses to refine what he already possesses. He starts working on the ice bullet, strengthening its molecular structure to increase the projectile's weight and hardness. He aims at a distant tree trunk, concentrates with absolute focus, and fires. The ice shard flies out and pierces the target with ease. Dale looks at the damage and wonders if it was always this simple to create spells capable of piercing heavy armor. Sephia smiles. Deeply proud. It was expected. This boy learns way too fast. Dale credits his master, explaining that he will always be incredibly grateful to her. From the Knight's rescue to everything involving Charlotte, each event only deepens the immense trust the elf places in him. To Sephia, this boy's growing talent is almost terrifying, and honestly, who can blame her? But her apprentice is her pride, and she pulls him into a tight, warm hug that leaves him completely flustered. At sunset in the castle's quiet central garden, Dale is still thinking about that warm embrace. Maybe she still sees him as a kid, he decides. Not to overthink it, the focus is training. Fully concentrated, he raises a solid wall of ice. He extends both hands, channeling his energy into it. This time he creates a brand new variation, shaping the ice bullets like a shotgun spread. Several small shards launch at the exact same instant, hitting his barrier with pinpoint precision. Some ricochet, and Dale raises a shield around himself almost in the very same moment. Looking at the impact, he starts planning the next step, wondering about adding a fragmentation effect. Suddenly, a familiar voice interrupts him. It is Charlotte, surprised to find him training out here. She mentions she was practicing the footwork Helmut taught her. Dale comments that it seems like she is genuinely enjoying the lessons. She confirms it with a bright smile. She awkwardly begins to apologize. She admits she was pretty selfish. Slipped up, calling him Dale before quickly correcting to young master. Dale closes his eyes for a second. He agrees she was rude. He smiles and says it is fine. He will make a special exception. Charlotte gasps, completely shocked by this. Is he actually being serious? Absolutely, he confirms it, telling her to stop being so formal. The two lean back against a tree, chatting quietly for a while. Charlotte loves the crisp cold. Night training means everything feels fresher. Dale agrees. He keeps his eyes on her as she smiles. Finally, someone who actually shares the exact same taste as him. His heart warms. Meanwhile, they are being watched closely from a window. Lena smiles. She tells her husband their son is already flirting. The Duke smiles back. Does she think they are a good match? Only time will tell. A mother must help her son be honest. She needs to guide his heart. Sometime later, outside the city, Lena talks with an old bread vendor, worrying about his failing health. The slums are tough. It is overrun with beggars and desperate people. This is exactly where the Duchess loves to hand out charity supplies, giving food to the needy. That year, Charlotte and Dale joined in. This year, Dale and Charlotte joined in, walking through the slums. A ragged, crying boy ran up to Charlotte, begging for help. His mother was in danger, but Dale immediately grew suspicious. Why ask a kid? They were drifting far from their guards. Scanning the rooftops, he spotted a hooded figure watching them. It was Saxon's work, and Charlotte was the target. This was a setup. The kid asked them to wait while he fetched his mom. Total setup. Instead of a mother, armed thugs step out. The leading bandit sneered. laughing about finding noble kids in this dark place. He told them clearly that their only real business was with the maid. The young master should keep out of this if he wanted to live. Flashing his knife, he warned the boy against doing anything pretty stupid. Dale just smiled. He swore to protect his close friends. The bandit laughed, mocking his cute little sense of chivalry. He told the young noble it was time to read the room better. The other bandits slowly began to close in on them. The leader barked that Dale needed a lesson in reality. Charlotte panicked, whispering that she left her sword at the castle. Dale stayed calm. There was absolutely no reason to worry. This was the perfect test run for his shadow mantle. He stood his ground as a deep purple aura erupted. A dark wind whipped up, putting the thugs on edge. Sensing danger, the leader screamed for his men to run. The power surged, but one thug was completely swallowed up. The shadow mantle sank deep, acting like a parasite. It took over completely, instantly turning him into a loyal undead. A soldier moving entirely on his own, leaving the leader absolutely stunned, the possessed. His henchman mutates, sharp claws tearing through flesh. Over and over, the beast groans a mad chant, so hungry, so incredibly hungry. Panicked, the leader screams for his men to put the rabid monster down. The green-haired bandit snaps. He doesn't care who the kid is anymore. One slip-up means they all die. The remaining thugs swarm toward Dale. The green-haired killer blurs around him, throwing a barrage of lethal daggers. But Dale barely flinches. The dark aura around him blocks every single blade. With no other choice, the bandit lunges forward, aiming right for his throat. Dale is already waiting. He unleashes a massive blast from his double-barrel 12-gauge skill. The brutal impact sends the killer flying back. Charlotte watches the carnage. Honestly, who wouldn't be completely terrified by this? Meanwhile, Dale's zombie thrall keeps tearing through the remaining thugs. Bleeding out, the bandit leader snarls that it is not over, charging forward. But he runs straight into a glowing spell circle Dale, already laid down. The creature keeps repeating how hungry he is, crushing the last bandit. The beast keeps muttering about its hunger, finishing off the final thug. Afterwards, Dale approaches Charlotte, quietly asking if she is okay. Nearby, the last surviving bandit stares at the absolute carnage around them and lets out a terrified shriek. Before the coward can even run, Dale fires a precise ice bullet, shattering the man's leg. With a wave of his hand, he dispels the writhing zombie. The sobbing thief begs for mercy, swearing he will spill every secret he knows. He keeps babbling, offering to tell them anything they want to hear, but mid-sentence, a cold bullet pierces right through his skull. Dale mumbles that he has absolutely no interest in his stories. The body drops. Charlotte looks at the bloody scene, her hands trembling from the sheer horror. Dale explains that this is the brutal reality of the Saxon Duchy. It is a power people fear, but it is also the power protecting her. He watches her face closely, softly asking if she finds him terrifying now. Charlotte closes her eyes, taking a deep breath before giving her answer. She is fine. Her friend just risked everything to keep her safe, she explains. That after their oath yesterday, she made a silent promise to herself. Her family will become his shield, protecting him from the shadows. And one day, she will be the sword he wields to cut down his enemies. With a determined smile, she thanks him for showing her what she must do. Her words catch him completely off guard. Dale stares at her, stunned. He wonders why his instinct to protect this girl is so incredibly strong. Maybe it is just lingering guilt over Lord Babel, but looking at her, he realizes that if she truly wants to become his weapon in the future, that oath carries a weight far heavier than he ever imagined. Their hands meet, sealing a quiet bond that can never be broken. Meanwhile, far away in the cold territory belonging to Count Brandenburg, the ruler stands sweating by his desk, his hands shaking in fear. He grips a newly delivered letter. The words inside warn of a dangerous path, yet practically demand his immediate presence before the Duke of Saxon. He was urged to accept the invitation and absolutely not refuse. This was a direct, inescapable summons sent from the terrifying Black Duke. The Duke held him responsible, leaving him with zero choices. Even a famous sword saint had absolutely no choice but to comply. Brandenburg finally stood before Duke Alan inside the cold Saxon castle. Alan noted the journey must have been tough and was surprised he arrived so quickly. He even apologized for the reception, but Brandenburg remained tense. Placing a hand over his heart, he replied that the summons took priority. Then his eyes quietly drifted to the two children nearby. He mentioned the Empire's deep concern over the territory's recent unrest. A daylight kidnapping was bound to draw a lot of attention. He claimed he understood, but played completely innocent about it all. How could the Emperor's own loyal sword be involved in something so vile? He sounded perfectly offended, but Alan was not buying the act. Before he could finish, Alan unleashed a terrifying purple aura. Talk about a power move, the force completely blew his men away. Within seconds, the elite soldiers began to disintegrate in absolute despair. Brandenburg could only watch in pure horror as they were erased. His holy knights were wiped out completely, unable to fight back. Shaking, he looked at the Duke and asked what magic this was. It was a high-level dark magic known as the Nile Storm. Touch those kids again, and your family is completely finished. Alan coldly demanded that the warning be burned deep into his mind. Then, shifting his tone, he pleasantly noted that their guest must be tired. He warmly invited the Count to relax and make himself comfortable. Thoroughly shaken, Brandenburg thanked the Duke but quickly excused himself to leave. He claimed urgent matters prevented him from staying in the territory. As he turned to leave, Alan simply wished him safe travels. But Brandenburg was extremely loyal to the Emperor. And he had just witnessed a massive, terrifying secret. A political bomb that could easily tear the Empire apart. It starts as a tiny spark, but trust me, it will quickly become a wildfire. Ultimately, taking down the Sword Saint was a job meant for the protagonist. Soon, rumors exploded everywhere that the great Sword Saint actually kneeled. Later, Alan pulled back a heavy cloth. Safia froze. Lying before her were the bodies of those brutal bandits. These were the exact same criminals who had targeted young Dale. The tutor struggled to accept that her own student did this. They were horribly mangled, crushed, completely riddled with holes. For the first time, Safia questioned her entire way of teaching. But Alan insisted she was absolutely vital for the boy. She had to guide Dale's immense talent down the right path. He offered her the chief advisor position. Safia bowed. She was deeply troubled, grasping the heavy reality behind the offer. This was no simple tutoring job. She was joining the Saxon family. Guiding Dale with his father around was simply too much for one person. With a powerful elf alongside him, everything changes. Safia accepted with a firm nod, fully understanding the high stakes. She knew the kid, meaning this would easily be her toughest job yet. Time passes. Suddenly, Dale is turning 10. This time, even the Emperor's faction shows up to the massive celebration. The standout guest is the famous Marquis Ulis, boasting bright red hair. He walks up with a warm smile, expressing his deep honor. It was a true pleasure meeting young Master Dale before Ulis even introduced himself. Honestly, the guests are already blown away by the massive banquet spread. People whisper that it is hard to believe they are deep in the frozen north. Looking at this incredible feast, one noble even admits he feels completely foolish. He felt foolish for ever worrying about the massive distance. These capital nobles represent the ultimate power block under the sovereign's name. This is no coincidence. The imperial family is sending a clear warning to protect their sword saint. And the man carrying that heavy threat is already standing right in front of Dale. He offers the boy a warm, friendly smile alongside a highly calculated bow. Ulis leads the Red Magic Tower, a faction obsessed with raw fire and absolute order. They rule through sheer power, believing that absolute strength defines everything in life. Because of that, these mages happily become tools for the highest bidder. They have targeted Dale before. Marquis mentions he heard all about the boy's absurdly terrifying talent. Rumors say he annihilated an entire orc squad to save a family knight. Doing that at only 9 years old is honestly nothing short of legendary. It is exactly what people expect from the son of a legendary duke. He wishes the Marquis a great stay before walking the empty halls alone. Dealing with this fake praise year after year is getting incredibly exhausting. If he had a choice, he would be training with Charlotte right now. But officially, she is just a simple servant working under his mother. It would be disastrous if anyone discovered the sword god's daughter is training. Suddenly, a desperate scream shatters his thoughts. A rough voice snaps at a young girl, calling her a worthless servant. Dale rushes toward the commotion and finds a terrified maid on the floor. She weeps, begging him to stop, crying that she serves House Saxon. A fat, red-haired noble looks down at her with nothing but pure disgust. He sneers that a mere peasant has no right uttering the duchy's name. Since everyone is busy partying, he decides to have some personal fun. He corners the trembling girl, demanding she do exactly as he says. Dale steps right in. The man instantly freezes, trying to stammer out a pathetic excuse. But Dale does not budge, so the man flashes a repulsive, greasy grin. He asks if the young lord has ever played around with girls before. Petro offers to show him the ropes, but Dale is completely out of patience. A deadly magic circle ignites right in his hand. He was going to protect the servant, no matter what. Petro assumed that in a world bound by strict class rules, some lowborn kid would never dare lash out at anyone representing the royal crown. He was wrong, a razor-sharp shard of ice sliced right past the nobleman's cheek, sending him crashing into the dirt in shock. A hair closer and he would be dead. Honestly, Dale's sheer coldness is terrifying. He knew striking an imperial official would bring a mountain of trouble on him. But he did not care, blood dripping from his cheek. Petro snarled in outrage. Demanding to know his intent, Dale raised his voice, commanding him to drop to his knees. He had to apologize to Miss Eve, a proud member of House Saxon. Petro spat back that he served the emperor himself, making this act an insult. To the throne, humiliating an official for some worthless maid was completely unforgivable. Dale did not miss a beat. Is it now imperial custom? He asked to abuse the hard-working servants of noble hosts. Furious and shaking, Petro pointed a finger, but before things could turn bloody, the rest of the party walked in. Ignoring them entirely, Dale issued a warning. This was his final offer to kneel. Standing nearby, Yuli smirked, highly entertained. He whispered to the Duke that this was shaping up to be a spectacular show. Alan finally stepped forward, demanding to know what kind of mess was happening here. Dale bluntly stated that the guest had laid his hands on a family maid. The Duke frowned. Did a common servant warrant this level of disrespect? Petro tried to scramble up, but Dale snapped at him. Nobody gave him permission to stand. He reminded everyone that the capital lords carried a duty. They represented the emperor himself, yet this disgusting behavior dragged that royal name through the mud. He refused to let it stand. Suddenly, Ulrich chimed in, clapping his hands for the young master. He praised Dale's quick wit, agreeing that representatives of the throne should never behave so miserably, but as he spoke, his hand began to glow. Gathering a surge of raw magic, he quietly whispered a single command. Tolara, with a cold glance, he decided this parasite did not deserve to live. Panicked, Petro tried to scramble away. That desperate run was completely useless. Searing heat wrapped around him. A massive pillar of fire engulfed his body. Scorching him in absolute agony, he was reduced to ash in seconds. Ulrich dusted off his hands, noting that he had to punish such trash. Then he turned to Dale, smiling as he mentioned his very high hopes for the boy's future. Dale heard it, but he felt the hidden threat beneath those words. Soon, the tense imperial entourage departed, leaving behind a quiet, peaceful castle once more. Days later, a maid came to wake the young master, softly telling him it was time to start his day. Dale thanked her, but he caught a flicker of sorrow in her eyes. He gently asked if there was something bothering her. Seeing her hesitate, she faltered before whispering how honored she was to serve him. It seemed odd that such a simple phrase required so much courage. But Dale realized this was a reality he would have to accept now. He smiled, telling her she did not need to be so formal. But deep down, he knew his heavy burden as the eldest Saxon heir. Duchy, and he is determined to use every single resource to crush the Empire. The Empire. Sometime later, Alan calls his son in for a serious talk. He admits he always saw him as a genius, but lately, things got weird. Dale stays cautious, asking what his father means. That is when Alan explains. If the summoned hero had not died in that massive battle against Divine Sword Lord Bartle, the next target would surely have been the Saxon Duchy territory. Alan calls this claim bold, demanding answers. Where does this certainty come from? Deep down, Dale cannot say a word. He cannot reveal that in his past life, he saw the Empire target House Saxon, or that the hero was killed because his power grew too wild. So Dale offers a safer excuse, a truth his father can accept. Last year, when the hero slew the Demon King, the Empire did nothing to cleanse the Dark Lands. Instead, they seized it as imperial territory and forced House Saxon to drain their own vaults to clear it. The Duke got the responsibility, but as long as the corruption remained, their family wealth would just keep bleeding dry. To make matters worse, people started calling them the Dark Clan. A perfect setup, just like they disposed of the hero, the Empire. Plans to erase this internal threat. Alan asks how Dale knows all this. His son claims it is simple deduction, gathered from old Imperial records. The public story says the hero died in glory fighting Bartle. But the ugly truth is buried deep. The Duke is utterly stunned. If this theory holds, then Imperial justice is just a pretty lie. It is pure oppression meant to crush the weak. Alan realizes his 10-year-old son speaks with the wisdom of a master. He asks which path they must take now. Dale does not blink. No peace, no coexistence. The Empire must burn. To survive, they must destroy it. Talk about a chilling declaration. He whispers his son's name, asking if the boy truly understands his words. He asks if Dale understands the weight. Dale remains entirely calm. He is not proposing an instant war or a sloppy suicide march. This is a 10-year plan. Other rebellious forces are already waiting. Across the continent, betrayed leaders hunger for their own freedom. The economy is crashing, borders are failing, and chaos is spreading. Bandits roam free, and the heavy toll of war grows worse. Until the time is right, House Saxon must quietly build strength. We protect ourselves first, then fund the resistance across other regions. Dale lays out the grand plan, speaking until the sun starts sinking down. When he finally stops, he asks what his father thinks. A slow smile spreads across the Duke's face, quickly breaking into a booming laugh. He admits Dale's talent is terrifying, seeing things his own father missed. He declares it is a massive honor to have him as a son, and from this day on, Dale is no longer just a 10-year-old firstborn child to him. He gets the respect owed to the next great lord of their house. The Duke vows to listen, treating his own son as a true equal. He gets right to it, asking what decision Dale will make for their family. Seizing the moment, Dale asks for permission to enter the dangerous tower. This necropolis trial is tough, simple duels to determine the hierarchy. Mages face off against tough guardians, and beating high-level ones yields rewards. Surviving earns them the rank of Elder, while reaching the top brings mastery. They claim the title of Master. Alan frowns, warning him of the extreme danger. The Duke genuinely fears for his son's life, especially since it is too early. Dale has not even reached the third circle yet, but the boy quickly counters. He says he will get there soon, but the Duke points out a reality. Most mages only reach the third circle after the age of 20. Doing it now is incredibly tough, but Dale holds his gaze steady. He believes this is the absolute best path for his father and House Saxon. Proving himself in the tower will naturally strengthen the Duke's own political standing. It gives them a recognized heir with a real reputation instead of empty rumors. Alan asks if that is his only motivation, and Dale confidently confirms it. The Duke smiles faintly, accepting the answer. Dale promises he will make him proud. He will prove it. Just days later, they arrive at the city. In Necropolis, 3 figures approach a massive gate as a carriage rolls up. A young man steps out of the vehicle, sighing that they finally made it. Everyone nearby bows instantly to greet the legendary Black Duke, while Dale simply yawns. He is still exhausted from the trip, seeing their extreme reverence. They are taking this standard formality way too far again. As the father and son step inside, the waiting crowd instantly begins whispering. Rumors fly instantly. People whisper about how exhausted the Prodigy looks. They call him a magical genius, but wonder why he looks so worn out. Others whisper that his swordsmanship actually rivals the Duke's personal elite knights. An arrogant blonde mage named Velik steps forward, boasting about his academy grades. As the top graduate, he claims he is the only one worthy of victory. Right then, a polite young woman approaches and bows deeply to their lord. Meet Eris. The Duke remarks that it has been a very long time. She is a high-ranking elder who keeps the whole place running smoothly. Eris manages everything whenever the Duke is away. Alan instructs her to personally look after Dale during the upcoming trials. Dale introduces himself politely, and Eris requests the Duke to follow her. She explains that 59 other elite academy graduates are already waiting inside. As the massive doors swing open, they see the massive crowd of competitors. Everyone is ready. Eris steps directly up to the platform to address them. After welcoming the mages, she lays down the rules of the first floor. Inside this dark magic tower, everyone must check their life point collar. It is a straight-up battle royale. Each collar holds a single shield point. They have to use the ancient corpses scattered across the arena to strike. Landing a solid blow shatters their opponent's protective shield, eliminating them. Doing so instantly knocks them out of the running while earning a point. Securing 3 points guarantees immediate passage to the next floor. Using external artifacts is strictly banned, resulting in instant disqualification. Dale scans the room, quickly realizing these rules exist solely to weed out the weakest contenders first. And do it fast. Nearby, another participant whispers a warning. That young lord has somehow already reached the third circle, despite being so young. Velik scoffs. That is exactly why they need to take him down first. Someone asks if targeting the young lord is even allowed, and Velik just smiles. There is nothing to worry about. Once inside, everyone is on equal ground. Then the signal to begin the trial finally echoes across the arena. Shockingly, every single participant instantly aims their magic circles directly at Dale. It is a massive targeted attack. One mage channels dark energy straight into his arm. He hurls a glowing purple sphere at the ground, summoning a rotting zombie. Others follow suit. Demonic beasts claw their way up and spells fly everywhere. A horde of monsters closes in on Dale. One machete-wielding zombie lunges. Dale raises a shield to block the swing, but a second strike comes flying in. Surprisingly, his shield doesn't block it. Another undead creature intercepts the blow. It catches the blade with its claws. Absolutely nobody saw this summon coming. While channeling dark magic, Dale secretly cast a hidden water spell. No one noticed a thing. Now his newly summoned beast charges, instantly tearing an enemy zombie apart. The original summoner grinds his teeth, furious that anyone dared destroy his creation. But Dale's monster is a wall, easily tanking every single incoming attack. He even coats the creature in thick ice armor, making it insanely durable. Seeing this, Velik steps forward, loudly questioning if this is even legal. He argues that only dark spells and summoning undead should be allowed here. Dale simply turns to Eris, calmly asking a very simple question. Is there any rule specifically banning other elements during this trial? The silence from the judges is answer enough. The trial continues. Annoyed, Velik orders his team to hold off the monsters while he charges. He believes their sheer numbers will easily overwhelm a single opponent. Dale quickly reviews the rules in his mind. No artifacts allowed. He has to work with what is available right here. A plan forms. Time to make a move. Weaving through the chaotic battlefield, Dale moves smoothly between the enemy lines. He gets dangerously close to a zombie, wielding a rusted blade. For a split second, it looks like he is done for, but he catches the blade itself. Instantly, he channels explosive magic directly into his other fist. He rips the weapon away, delivering a devastating, mana-charged punch to the creature. Staring at the stolen blade for a brief moment, he immediately puts it to work. Velik and his allies watch in complete shock as Dale shreds their undead army. They assume that blade must be some kind of overpowered cheat weapon. Little do they know, he used magic to reinforce its structure internally. Moving like lightning, Dale tears through the field, cutting down enemy summons. Velik's jaw drops as his own summoned forces get sliced to pieces. None of this makes sense. Mages are not supposed to fight like swordmasters. With his front line completely wiped out, Velik is left totally exposed to the danger. Dale closes the distance in a flash. Velik realizes he has nowhere left to run. Drops to his knees, begging. Dale just shrugs. It is not like the guy is actually going to die. With a swift blow to the head, he ends the fight. Velik crashes to the floor. Completely untouched, Dale's life points are perfect. He is the only competitor left standing. He glances around with a cold, confident smirk. But get this, that was only the warm-up. The real challenge is just starting. Phase 2 of the tower trial is officially underway. His goal now is defeating the Flesh Golem Guardian. Usually, survivors would team up here. But since Dale wiped out everyone else, he faces this monstrosity completely alone. On the bright side, magic is finally allowed in this round. Using powerful artifacts is still strictly banned, so his special cloak remains off-limits. But this is a rare chance. He can finally put his skills to the test. It is time to unleash his third magic circle. Suddenly, the golem charges forward. A heavy fist crashes down with terrifying power, echoing through the chamber. The beast grins, thinking it won, but that smug look is about to vanish. It looks down to find its massive hand engulfed in relentless purple fire. Dale set the trap in absolute silence before the attack even connected. This is corrupt acceleration, an incredibly unique spell he created himself. Creating your own magic at his age is practically unheard of. Instead of a quick death, it slowly rots the target from the inside out. His past life taught him that decay is the ultimate weapon against monsters. Within moments, the sickening stench of rotting flesh fills the air. None of the onlookers truly comprehend the sheer terror of what they are watching. Dale absolutely crushes the trial, shattering records one after another. He breezes right through the 10th phase, earning himself 4 whole days of rest. The remaining 59 candidates are left staring in complete disbelief. While they struggle through a special reassessment, Dale is already relaxing. Later that evening, he stands quietly by a fountain when a familiar voice calls out. He spins around to see Sephia, who warmly praises his incredible performance. Dale humbly replies that he only succeeded because of everything she taught him. His master smiles, deeply touched, but then Dale gets surprisingly serious. He looks her in the eye and drops an unexpected question. His invitation is for her to join him at the city festival tonight. Sephia hesitates for a second, but with a soft blush, she actually agrees. She tells herself it is harmless, even if her student is still pretty young. She doubts he even understands the romantic weight of a moment like this. The Necropolis Festival is in full swing, flooding the streets with vibrant energy. Colorful fireworks light up the sky. Sephia asks if he is exhausted from the trial. Dale just smiles, explaining he has plenty of rest days before the next phase. A quiet, slightly awkward silence settles between them under the full moon. The night is almost too beautiful. Sephia looks around with a gentle smile. Keeping a conversation with her has always been tough, but never uncomfortable. That was just how it always felt when he was with his master. She always trusted him after all, but just days earlier, things were very different. Unlocking the 3rd magic circle forced him to confront the dangerous mind space. Sephia had warned him about this. Concentrating too hard made his nose bleed. To break past his own limits, he had to pay a heavy price. He must push his mana far beyond the limits of the 2nd circle. Only a dangerous backflow can force open the 3rd, a massive risk. For a mere child, it is practically impossible. Dale feels the agony. Pain strikes like a blade through his heart. He grips his sword. Suddenly, his mind slips away. He is pulled somewhere else entirely. A desolate, snowy wasteland. Dead trees stretch to the far horizon. Confused, he stares at his hands and sees his past life's body. This is his inner world, fractured, shattered, and completely split apart. He is torn between who he is now and his former self. Nothing but empty space. His master's hand is his only real anchor. That is probably why he desperately wanted her in his world, back in reality. Dale gathers his courage. He looks up at Master Sephia and confesses his love. She stumbles over her words, totally caught off guard. Heart pounding, he repeats it. Sephia just offers a gentle, warm smile. She pulls him close, wrapping him in a soft, sisterly embrace. She understands his feelings. She truly cares about him as well. Dale thanks her silently, thinking his second life definitely has its perks. A few days pass. Soon, the morning of the big trial arrives. The sun is bright. It is time for the tower challenge. Yet nothing changed between them. Sephia still treats him like a child. Just a 10-year-old with a crush, so Dale focuses on his test. A magic duel, the ultimate test to advance to the next phase. His opponent is a dangerous 3rd circle master named Albert Rosenheim. This guy makes it crystal clear that he will show no mercy. He will not hold back just because he is fighting a kid. The rules allow any magic or powerful artifacts with 0 restrictions. That means even a protection amulet will not keep you safe here. This is Dale's chance to show the massive gap in their power. Suddenly, a massive blast of purple magic erupts right in his face. The explosion leaves a heavy cloud of smoke. Albert laughs, calling him arrogant. He claims that Dale's lucky streak ends right here and now. Magic circles appear. Dozens of dark runes surround his opponent. He fires a relentless barrage of black arrows, doubting Dale can survive. Albert readies a massive final spell, shouting that the kid is too cocky. He fires the entire volley at once, eager to see him break. But Dale does not even try to block. He simply moves. He slips past every single blast with flawless precision, beautiful to watch. Attacking before the match officially started was incredibly cheap, but the judges ignore it. They just want to see how this mysterious kid handles the pressure. Honestly, this petty behavior is exactly why Dale absolutely despises mages. Elbert clutches his spellbook, dramatically summoning a small army of undead ghouls. He demands absolute loyalty from his monsters in an over-the-top performance. Still, the sheer magical pressure is stronger than anything Dale has faced yet. Monsters surge forward, but Dale effortlessly dances around their attacks. With zero effort shown, Elbert mockingly asks how long he plans to run. Does he honestly think he can win like this? Another axe-wielding undead spawns. A purple flash cuts its neck, gone, cleanly severed. That same deadly energy ripples outward, vaporizing every other summon instantly. Albert keeps smiling, still mocking him, but their destruction triggers a trap. A massive explosion, thick, blinding dust completely blankets the entire arena. Believing the fight is already won, the mage proudly declares victory. Then he blinks, his opponent is gone, completely vanished. Confused, Albert looks around, wondering when Dale even managed to move. Dale's voice echoes, noting that cheating against a kid is incredibly cowardly. The mage panics. Suddenly, Dale appears right behind his terrified opponent. He mockingly praises the surprise attack and begins closing the distance. Shrouded in spectral shadows, Dale makes it clear Albert cannot beat him. Heavy dark energy suddenly pins the screaming mage flat to the ground. Dale watches with a faint, chilling smile as his summons close in. He casually warns his beasts not to overdo it. Spectators watch, horrified. It is a living nightmare. Albert is dragged, screaming on the edge of being eaten alive. Dale notes his pets must be quite hungry. Terrified and completely broken, the helpless mage begs for his life. Dale gestures smoothly, forming a magic circle to command them to stop. Albert collapses, out cold. The first match is declared over. Hands on hips, Dale calmly asks who is next. Many competitors forfeit on the spot. Terrified to face him, they drop out. Soon, the finals arrive. Dale glides through the brackets, facing only one actual challenge. After his win, he refines all 3 of his magic circles. Next, he starts systematically crushing the tower floor guardians one by one. Upon reaching the 20th floor, a worthy opponent finally blocks his path. A towering headless knight on horseback, built by an elder of the tower. This summon is deadlier than anything before. This is his true limit. Yet Dale is bored. Predictable strategies are just incredibly dull. He stands firm as the knight charges. The crowd holds its breath. Then the unexpected. The massive beast halts right before him. It drops to its knees, bowing deeply as if meeting its lord. Dale stares back, face blank. In his inner world, they stand alone. He gives a single, quiet command: end your own existence. Without a second thought, the knight obeys, plunging its blade inward. A heavy guardian falls. Even Dale is stunned by this extreme loyalty. Abandoning its creator seems simple enough, but the crowd's reaction is insane. Everyone is utterly speechless, a creation turning on its own maker. And swearing loyalty to another can only mean one thing. Dale has reached the level of the legendary Tower Elders. Content with his point made, he decides to stop right there. The spectators whisper in confusion, completely unable to understand his choice. But Dale knows there is a line he should not cross yet. His run ends here. The tower itself acknowledges his grand exit. As the powerful Duke finally arrives, everyone bows in deep respect. Shows total respect in his presence. It is not just the nobles of House Saxon, but all. The mages, including the oldest elders, lower their heads before the Duke and his young heir. With young master's insane feats, the entire northern region slowly begins to finally unite, deep in the frozen north of the empire within the duchy. Saxon, a brave warrior, charges forward with spear in hand, instantly taking down 2 orcs. With perfect precision, another fighter raises his weapon, shouting that he fights for young Master Dale and for House Saxon. After clearing the tower challenge, the protagonist was ordered by the Duke to lead a strike against the orc. Horde spearmen, warriors, and heavy knights charge into battle directly under his command. And massive responsibility for a boy who is only 10 years old. Still, nobody doubts his true ability. As the rightful heir of the Black Duke, Dale begins to unite the North. On a clear, bright afternoon, the official mission report is finally presented. It is recorded that 145 orcs died. The Duke asks about cavalry losses and the boy reports that only 3 soldiers suffered light injuries. His father then demands to know if magic was used for protection. The answer is steady. It was the pure skill of House Saxon's swords. Wearing a proud smile, the Duke warmly congratulates his son. Helmut notes that the young master has truly matured and has easily stepped into the role of a commander. He was the mentor who taught Dale everything about swordsmanship, battlefield tactics, and the art of war. The day when our hero takes charge of his own territory is close and just. Thinking about it gets Dale pumped. Fresh challenges always drive him forward. Meanwhile, Charlotte is training like her life depends on it. She yells as she lunges forward, her sharp blade slicing through the air straight toward her sparring partner's face. He casually dodges and strikes back, which she barely blocks. Dale's speed has reached an insane level, making his rapid movements hard to trace. Still, at one point her blade passes dangerously close to his chin. Dale admits that Charlotte has grown much stronger. She huffs that when he talks down to her, he sounds like a completely different person, making him laugh and ask if he has been teasing her too much lately. Charlotte then mentions that ever since Dale unlocked the third magic circle and cleared the 20th tower trial, everyone has treated him like some god, constantly kissing up. She asks if that does not annoy him. Grinning, he tells her to chill out, promising she will get strong very soon, too. For a girl who is only 10 years old, her raw talent is unreal, but she does not appreciate his patronizing tone. Annoyed, she snaps at him to stop treating her like a kid. Dale fires back that she actually is one. The blonde points a finger right at him, reminding the boy that he is one too. Shocked, he points to his own chest in disbelief. Then he proudly claims that he already behaves like a grown adult. Charlotte quickly decides to end this useless bickering. A bit later, Helmut meets up with his prize student and announces that today's training is going to be special. Dale will master the hammer and anvil strategy. The cavalry charges down both flanks, circling behind the enemy, trapping them while the main infantry line holds the front secure. The name comes directly from forging metal, crushing the target between the heavy hammer and the anvil, leaving absolutely no escape. Dale realizes this setup only works because of the unstoppable black cavalry, realizing deep down that the cruel nature of war never taking his chance. The young man quickly changes the subject to ask about Charlotte's progress. Helmut explains that her training is completely unique compared to the boys, but she is doing incredible. Her foundation is incredibly solid, meaning she will soon learn the Saxon family specialized aura techniques. Even so, something worries him. Dale quickly figures it out, her compatibility with their style. Mages refine mana, knights must refine raw aura. Through internal training, legendary orders include the Black Cavalry, which fights in brutal wars, and the Northern Knight Ravens, who value power. Above all, but Charlotte's style relies on speed. Despite her incredible talent, she might only reach the rank of 7th sword, never quite making the peak. Her father once held a peak elite position, renowned across the kingdom for his skill. Dale mentions the spring sword, wondering if that style was still around, everything would change, but the lost art vanished when the ancient knights fell. Massive question remains, did it actually disappear? Meanwhile, as Dale works relentlessly to build his reputation, now it's time to prove his training. During a meeting, the Duke questions a new report. An urgent messenger reveals that Baron Faucher, a neighboring lord, is claiming a crucial copper mine, formally demanding an official domain war. It seems suicidal for a minor noble to challenge the mighty Saxon house, but a larger threat looms. If they refuse the challenge, the Grand Duke of Brandenburg will likely back the Baron to split the rich resources. Even the Holy Order of St. Magdalena might get mobilized. He's genuinely shaken. Trouble is definitely coming. The enemy clearly has not forgotten the bitter humiliation from before. A major clash is coming. Brandenburg still carries deep wounds. He thirsts for absolute revenge, but launching a direct assault is too risky, so he targets a remote border zone instead. He stays safe. Dale approaches his father, making his demand clear. He wants to personally lead this campaign. The Duke shuts him down instantly. It is far too early. Fighting people is a completely different beast from hunting mindless monsters. He needs to watch his mouth. Turning to the messenger, the Duke reassures Baron Greenbelt, promising to protect the mine. The messenger leaves, expressing deep relief. Sometime later, Dale vents his frustration to Helmut, insisting that he could easily handle the battle far better than anyone else. Helmut understands his anger but reminds him of the Duke's wisdom. To distract him, he presents a special training tool. He brings out a classic board game. Dale looks at it, recognizing chess right away, even if it goes by another name here, Helmut. Explains that the game is directly designed around real warfare tactics, where was pretty complex, but if the kid really wanted high-level strategy, training this was his shot. Instantly, Dale grabbed the board and bolted. Helmut stood there totally baffled. Just a second later, the boy marched right up to his father with a direct, simple proposal. If he won a match, he wanted permission to join the territorial war. Battlefield success, he argued, was about brains, not just muscle. Helmut tried to step in and quickly apologize for the kid's behavior, but the Duke cut him off and actually accepted the challenge. If Dale won, he went to war. If he lost, the idea was dead. With the match underway, Helmut watched every move like a hawk. And guess what? As the game played out, something crazy happened. This kid was playing on a level nobody could have predicted. After an intense match, Dale won 2-1 against his father's superior positioning. Grinning, the confident boy asked if his father would keep his word. His dad laughed, asking how long he had even known about this game. Dale casually lied that he found an old strategy book in the library. Years ago, honestly, it was just a convenient excuse, nothing more. The Duke stood up and declared that a promise is a promise. He officially handed his young son command of the knights for the battle. But there was a catch. Saxon's family honor was on the line here. Losing is not an option. He looked Dale dead in the eye and asked if the kid could actually carry the weight of such a duty. Without skipping a beat, Dale asked for trust. His father agreed. Meanwhile, over at Malbert Castle, the atmosphere was incredibly tense. Grand Duke Brandenburg was currently discussing the wild rumors with Philip. Word was spreading that Saxon's young heir would lead the knights. Completely baffled, the Duke scoffed. Why would they let a drunk, irresponsible kid handle a war? Philip spat with pure contempt. The enemy forces were basically nothing compared to them. He begged for permission to crush the arrogant little brat. Brandenburg slammed his hand on the table, instantly shutting him down. He roared that Philip was underestimating their opponent in the dumbest way. That boy is a monster, someone Brandenburg's own son cannot match. In 10 years, let alone 100, fuming with absolute rage. He called Philip useless and cursed himself for not acting sooner. Even so, he officially handed Philip command of the upcoming battle, but only on paper. In reality, the true leader would be deputy Lord Milvas. The Duke strictly ordered Milvas to keep his son far away from any actual danger during the fight. Deep down, Brandenburg knew he could not openly fight a child under these conditions. He was starting to suspect this was Duke Saxon's master plan all along. Meanwhile, back at the castle, Helmut and Dale celebrated their win. A few days later, the massive gates of Greenbelt Castle swung open. The local baron was visibly sweating as columns of heavily armored soldiers marched in. Then, the arrival of the young commander was announced. The crowd looks at the kid in absolute disbelief, silently wondering if he can even hold a sword. The baron tries to fake some confidence, welcoming him. He claims Dale's presence is reassuring, but inside, he is sweating bullets. Handing the cavalry over to a 10-year-old kid is a massive gamble. To buy time, the baron suggests a banquet first, but Dale shuts him down. There is absolutely no time to waste, he replies, catching the noble completely off guard. Without another word, the kid draws his sword and points it right at the baron's neck, demanding to inspect the troops before asking who is the strongest. He asks them straight, who here is the absolute strongest fighter? A red-haired warrior steps forward, cutting in to claim the top spot. Boasting with a scarred grin, he brags that his match hasn't even been born. But deep down, the kid's unshakable confidence is making him pretty damn nervous already. Dale just stands there, watching the arrogant knight with a cold, calculating eye. Beside them, the baron lets out a massive sigh of relief as the blade finally pulls away. The young commander sees right through everyone in the room. They all think he is a joke, and honestly, you can't blame them. This entire war is resting on the shoulders of a 10-year-old boy. He slams his blade down. If they doubt him, well, he doubts them too. If they question his age, he questions the skill of the baron's men. And the quickest way to settle this argument, a good old-fashioned duel. A cold smirk crosses Dale's face as he points out something pretty embarrassing. Their strongest champion is literally drunk, which says everything about their training. Absolutely furious, the red-haired warrior draws his weapon. He points his blade at Dale, his voice shaking with anger. He introduces himself as Haberk, swearing on his honor to defend his home. He vows to prove their strength, but Dale just keeps on smiling. As the tension peaks, Dale asks if the knight recognizes his strange weapon. Haberk nods. He knows the deadly reputation of that bizarre blade very well. Still, he silently wonders if there is a trick behind the kid's confidence. Without waiting around, Haberk charges at full speed, swinging with all his might. But Dale blocks the massive strike with a single hand, using magic. The kid's focus does not shake for even a fraction of a second. With a simple shove, he completely shuts down the warrior's heavy assault. Dale observes his opponent, noticing there's no aura on that blade. Even without that elite skill, Dale decides to treat him like a real threat. Suddenly, a brilliant magic circle begins to glow in his left hand. Haberk flinches as dark, ominous energy starts surging up from the ground. He swings desperately to slice the shadows, but his blade just passes right through. Absolutely useless, the crushing pressure is starting to make him panic. Meanwhile, Dale calmly maintains his spell, watching his opponent's every move. The knight's actual skill is pretty disappointing, but then something unexpected happens. Haberk screams in agony and collapses straight onto the hard ground. The match is over just like that. Nobody could have predicted this outcome. Their absolute best champion was utterly destroyed in a matter of seconds. The Baron panics, screaming to know how the kid managed such a feat. Having the nerve to take down such a vital ally right before the fight. Dale steps closer, freezing cold. How Saxon must carry this entire fight alone. It is completely unfair for the bear to lounge around comfortably in safety while other men bleed out for his sake. If that is their best, they are in trouble. Saxon protects its own, but this lazy negligence, totally unacceptable. Everyone must step up. Dale declares that until the final battle. His elite knights will act as a sharp sword for everyone, and a difficult choice must be made right now: follow his lead or lose their homes, including their homes in the coming war. Together, they fall to their knees, pledging their lives. They swear absolute loyalty to the young commander. Later, night falls. Helena rests, filled with worry, while the Duke tries to soothe her. He gently strokes her cheek, whispering that their boy holds far greater secrets than they realize, heading toward a future too vast to imagine. With a certain smile, he believes the boy is destined to rule. Back in his own room, Dale reflects on how things have changed. He used to be like a frog trapped at the bottom of a well, completely blind. Now he sees the world clearly. He suspects the sacred swordsman knew the truth beforehand, meaning the choice of this specific barony was entirely deliberate. The next day, a bright morning sun shines over the training grounds. Haberk struggles forward under a massive boulder, completely exhausted. Begging to take a break, a nearby soldier snaps, calling it weakness and demanding he continue. Watching silently from a distance, Dale takes in the whole scene. He notices that even at the start of training, the red-haired man struggles. There is still a massive mountain to climb to whip these weak knights into real shape. Beyond training, he decides they must send a messenger to Pucker Barony. He wants to propose a negotiation, but not for some humiliating surrender. Before entering the battle, there is someone he must meet first. A few days pass in tense anticipation. The meeting takes place on the tense border, separating both baronies. A massive wooden table rests in the clearing. Dale calmly claims the head seat, sitting perfectly steady while scanning his opponents. In his mind, the math is already completely done. Within a few weeks, the inevitable is bound to happen. The Order of St. Madeleine is currently marching across the far side of the continent, leaving their supply lines weak and open to a swift, surprise preemptive strike. Not to mention Baron Parker's dangerous cavalry. Scout announces the arrival of young Master Philip. Dale expected nothing less. He knew exactly who they would send. Philip struts in wearing an arrogant smirk, acting like a true commander, while Milvas, the real military brain, walks silently by his side. As Philip takes a seat, Dale offers a calm greeting. Philip smirks, asking why they even came here. To negotiate, are they too scared to fight? Dale stays perfectly still. He gets straight to the point, asking why they accepted this meeting. When Philip opens his mouth to answer, Dale cuts him off immediately. This question was never meant for him, proving he has no interest in talking to a puppet. He shifts his focus, addressing the true commander, Milvas, the famed sword of chastity. Tension instantly spikes. Both men look incredibly annoyed, but Dale does not flinch. He calmly points out that the grand holy swordsman would never trust Massive war to someone incompetent, Milva's desperately tries to keep things stable, warning Philip not to take the obvious bait, yet something deeply troubles the knight. How on earth does the enemy know about the Count, despising his own flesh and blood, yet Dale just dropped that bomb? Without a single worry, Milvas coldly declares the talk's over while Philip slams the table, demanding a fast choice, but Dale keeps pushing the issue. He asks if the blonde needs permission to talk, comparing him to a submissive slave. He points out that the real boss is actually Milva's, proving the dog is the one holding the master's leash. The knight tries to intervene again, but pure anger is already boiling over in the room. Dale quietly enjoys the show, leaning back comfortably and placing both hands right behind his head while continuing to feed this beautiful, chaotic tension. Between them, talk about a masterclass in mental warfare. He never wanted to compromise, it was just a scheme to shatter the enemy leadership. Dale summons Bale and politely asks Milvas to step outside for a brief second. The elegant knight has no choice but to exit. With a smile, Dale suggests they have a private chat. They are, after all, the main generals in charge of this whole operation. They should speak directly. Philip's face is absolutely bright red, with pride and pure frustration. Yet trying to sound authoritative, the blonde takes the bait hook, line, and sinker. He barks an order for Milvas to clear out. The knight hesitates, trying to talk sense into his master, but Philip is stubborn. Deep down, he knows he is likely stepping into a trap, but Milvas reluctantly obeys anyway. Alone with his furious target, Dale claims he genuinely came to negotiate, promising a deal Philip cannot refuse. The condition is simple: if their order of Holy Knights retreats right now, the Saxon house will supply their journey. Back home, hearing this, Philip leaps up and bangs his fists down. He calls the offer a complete joke, not a real deal. Dale offers a light apology for his tone, but keeps his ground. If the knights stay, they will be slaughtered, ruining the Grand Master's sacred reputation and dragging the young heir's name straight through the dirt. This is his final shot at saving face. Philip rises, scoffing that Milvas was completely right. This smug kid just came here to laugh at him. Dale gives a sarcastic smirk, saying it is a real shame Philip thinks so. This truly was his escape route, because when this entire battle is lost, the fall guy won't be Milvas, it will be the Count's useless trashy son. Philip just sneers, completely unfazed by the threat. He claims that a big-mouthed brat like Dale will not live much longer. Dale smiles right back, hoping the blonde can keep up that brave face. Sometime after this disastrous meeting, over in the Greenbelt family lands, Philip grills his scouts about the Saxon troops. A messenger quickly warns him that the enemy is finally on the march. Philip smiles, thinking, with the meeting over, Dale's calm gaze still haunts him. For a child, that kid definitely did not look like a beginner. But that is the real opportunity. While Dale is only 10, Philip can crush this threat right at the root. Determined, he orders his troops to show this young brat the true meaning of silence. On the other side, Dale's scout warns him that the enemy is already marching north. Grasping his hilt, Dale signals his men that the time has come. Today they will prove why their name commands such respect. The battle begins. A soldier blows the horn, giving the signal to charge. And both armies surge forward at once. Men charge from every single direction. The battlefield quickly fills with screams and clashing steel, and the first bodies hit the dirt. Philip watches the chaos unfold and sends his first cavalry unit in. Their goal is holding back the dreaded Knight Raven Knights and the main Saxon family forces. Yet, his troops do not know their strength, so he stays back, positioning himself safely near the center of the formation. Meanwhile, Baron Parker's forces press hard along the left flank, aiming to pin down Greenbelt's cavalry, while Brandenburg's elite prepares for a sudden flank attack aimed straight at the enemy's core forces. It is a massive risk, but morale remains high. Nobody wants to let this chance slip away, but Melvin knows how dangerous this move truly is. The enemy is highly determined to fight for the Count's house, and the bloody field proves it. In all this madness, watch closely, because something totally unexpected happens. A figure in the lines part not from fear but utter shock. Young Master Dale has joined the fray himself. His voice cuts clean through the din, commanding everyone to hold, to fight to the last breath for Saxon glory. Seeing their young lord on the front lines, morale instantly skyrockets. Philip watches from afar and immediately reads the strategy. Dale wants to decide this Fight right now by offering himself up as bait, but that does not bother Philip. It is exactly what he wanted. Raising his hand, he invokes Saint Madalena, sending his soldiers charging ahead with renewed fury. On the other side, Dale's men match that intense energy, screaming out to protect their commander. Then both heavy lines collide hard. With massive explosions of magic lighting up the field, Philip decides to strike. A quick battle needs a quick end. He commands his primary cavalry to follow him, aiming to slay the young lord and end the war right here. Eyes burning with sheer hatred, he vows that today he will prove what his elite forces are truly capable of. He charges like a man possessed, his lethal blade claiming life after life. Suddenly, a spearman lunges forward with a desperate cry. The tip comes dangerously close to Philip's throat, with barely a second to react. He parries the thrust and slices down the enemy. Still, he keeps driving forward, blinded by his own bloody ambition. But after slaying so many foes, exhaustion finally starts to creep in, and with it, something feels off, extremely off, even as he presses the elite with pure force. The Night Raven Order is retreating way too easily. This black cavalry shouldn't be reacting like this, and his dread only grows. Then a messenger rushes in with some pretty terrible news about Baron Parker. His left flank is completely shattered, zero resistance. Across the field, men are dropping fast. Greenbelt's troops are using aura. Baron Parker's lines are breaking, and his soldiers are waiting for orders. Philip hesitates. Right now, that young enemy's mocking words echo in his mind. He remembers the bitter insult of being called an useless heir. Another scout arrives, suggesting they pull back the central and rear cavalry. They want to reinforce that collapsing left flank, but Philip snaps instantly. Enraged, the blonde commander snaps, "Shut up, all of you." He orders the rear cavalry to assemble, but he has a different plan. He wants to strike the right flank and take down the real target. He wants to take out Dale, who is already leading his men forward. This makes things messy. Sending more troops now will completely ruin their mobility. Worse, their left flank is left wide open and gets more vulnerable. But he has made his choice, blinded by a desperate need to win. Philip ignores the pleas for help. Meanwhile, the enemy encirclement is closing in. Messengers beg him to order a retreat, but he refuses to do it. He claims it is not time yet, then he catches sight of the truth. Dale is standing right there, watching him with the smug look of a winner. That silent mockery sends Philip over the edge, and he is absolutely seeing red. He raises his sword high, calling his cavalry to follow. Confused soldiers scream for orders. Philip just closes his eyes. In the name of Saint Madalena, he shouts out a desperate holy prayer. He begs the sister goddesses for their protection, blessings, and ultimate victory. But when his eyes snap open, there is only pure hatred inside them. The choice is made. From this moment on, they are breaking through. He wants the opposing general's head brought to him, no matter the cost. He screams for a full charge, swords drawn, fighting to the bitter end. Milva's troops charge straight toward Dale, playing right into his hands. The blonde's men swarm in from behind to trap them, but Dale stays calm. He knows panic only clouds a commander's mind, and there is no room for fear. With a quiet, mocking smirk, he asks if they have ever even seen magic. Just like that, he unleashes an ice arrow that tears through the freezing air. It strikes a soldier's mount head-on, sending the horse crashing violently to the ground. The rider flies off, his head smashing hard against the dirt. Talk about brutal. Philip's eyes go wide. Sniping a moving target with that precision is insane. He knows this kid is dangerous. Then Dale calls out his next move. A massive wall of solid ice erupts from the earth, completely cutting them off. The cavalry hesitates, completely thrown off by the sudden frozen barrier. Before they can recover, Dale fires another command: advance. His troops storm forward, giving absolutely everything they have got. They scream that they will lay down their lives for their young commander. Master's shield, the front line crumbles, soldiers drop one after another. On the other side, the blonde commander clutches his head, completely lost. He realizes far too late that he walks straight into a brutal trap. The goal was never to kill him instantly, it was to isolate and pressure him. They wanted to break his formation, and his entire front line fell right into it. His front line is twisted out of shape. He decides to push forward. If he can just force a breakthrough, maybe he can still turn this around. Screaming, he smashes through the barricade and finally reaches his target. He raises his blade, ready to end this nightmare once and for all. But the young commander only smiles back. A sudden crash, then silence falls. As the dust clears, the brutal truth is revealed. The blonde is on his knees. His surviving men follow suit. The entire field now belongs to the young leader. The arrogant belief in the absolute power of Aura Knights is completely shattered. Their legendary combat doctrine has turned into their ultimate weakness. Dale already knew every single move, memorized perfectly from a past life. He remembers when the very man guarding him now used to lead those troops. A breathless messenger sprints over. Their left flank has completely collapsed. Baron Parker has been captured, and the blonde commander is desperately trying to understand. He desperately asks if every detail of this trap was planned from the very beginning. Dale responds coldly. The battlefield is chaos, and nobody can predict everything. But getting yourself killed is always a choice. Then he offers his terms. Anyone who wants to live can beg and buy their mercy for a few gold coins. Outrage spreads through the defeated troops. They claim they would rather die. A sharp snap of fingers echoes. A soldier suddenly collapses with a spear through his chest. The message is brutally clear. Dale stares down at the kneeling commander. He demands to know what his final choice is going to be. Silence stretches for a few agonizing seconds. Slowly, the commander bows his head, swallowing his massive pride. He mutters that he has absolutely no regrets about losing his own life today. But he must warn his fellow knights that this boy is extremely dangerous. Screaming at the top of his lungs, he orders his remaining men to kneel. He still demands to be treated fairly as a prisoner under imperial tradition. Dale quietly watches this scene. His once arrogant enemy is now begging on his knees. There is really no point in mocking them any further. Yet a cold smile appears on his face as he delivers his final refusal. He says none of them will survive and casually orders his men to execute them. Even his own Night Crow Knights are completely stunned by this cold decision. Standard imperial custom dictates they spare prisoners for ransom, but not today. The young commander's tone is absolute, leaving absolutely no room for debate. Out on this bloody field, only one voice matters, and nobody dares challenge it. And right here, one man decides he has had absolutely enough. Consumed by pure rage, the blonde commander refuses to stay on his knees. He leaps up ready to strike, but he simply does not have the time. A blade pierces his gut, and spears impale him before he can get close. Dale steps up to his dying enemy and whispers directly into his ear. In a freezing voice, he asks, "Does Lord Milvas remember Dale's death?" Inside his mind, that night rushes back, burned in, impossible to forget. A blade driven deep into the boy's back, and someone watching in silence. It was Milvas himself, standing right there at the imprisoned hero's execution. Gripping the enemy's head, Dale asks again as panic consumes the commander. The blonde remembers, but before he can even move, dark energy surges. The shadows coil around them both, and he realizes his fatal mistake. This monster should never have been breathing. The darkness pins him down. His body is completely paralyzed, without a single chance of fighting back. With an ironic smile, the final answer comes, one simple word, yes. He breathes deeply, relief washes over him, while the battlefield rages elsewhere. The slaughter continues without stopping, as the blonde commander watches his soldiers fall. Shock completely freezes his face, and by the time he understands, the battle is already lost. The right flank is crushed, taking Milvas down. The legendary Aura Knights are dead, and the left flank shattered long ago. Now the fearsome black cavalry completely surrounds what remains of their main force. In the beaten commander's mind, only that boy's mocking grin remains. A terrified soldier begs for a command, but stubborn pride speaks louder. The blonde refuses to accept reality, screaming that they cannot be defeated. He orders his men to fight, hold your ground, never ever surrender. But the soldiers hesitate. Pushing forward now means total and absolute annihilation. Yet their commander's furious roar leaves them absolutely no room to disobey. But complete chaos has already swallowed the field as an enemy suddenly strikes. The blonde panics instantly, screaming like a coward for protection. Philip definitely did not want to die here, hoping for some miracle. The sky turns orange as the battle ends and victorious soldiers celebrate. Honestly, it is wild how everything went exactly according to Dale's plan. Bound and captured, Philip desperately thrashes about while the silent victor watches. Dale can easily see how much the broken commander hates the surrender. Even defeated, Philip blindly insists they are not completely broken yet. He arrogantly admits he used others just to survive this slaughter, claiming it was his duty as a leader, while Dale slowly reaches for his sword. There is no reason to keep this pathetic worm alive. In a desperate last-ditch effort, Philip offers a final, decisive duel. His soldiers scoff at the absurd request, but Dale lets him speak. He readily accepts with a dark smirk. The blonde starts drawing his blade but instantly cheats, charging forward without warning. He counted on Dale's naive honor to create a perfect opening. Screaming like a madman, he swings his sword to finish Dale. But he never even comes close. Dark energy erupts from the ground. You see Philip's smug confidence vanish into pure terror. His body collapses to the cold dirt, thrashing and screaming for mercy. Dale simply watches him, his cold eyes completely empty of any mercy. The loud conflict ends with the pathetic cries of a broken coward. Some time later, loud horns blow, announcing the arrival of someone very important. Young Master Dale returns, victorious. The common folk keep whispering about how he surrounded and totally crushed the legendary Order of the Knights of Saint Madalna. But wait, not everyone is celebrating this victory. A dark hooded figure approaches. He warns that this is no cause for joy. Too many lives were lost. In all likelihood, God never wanted this tragic outcome. This grim voice belongs to none other than Cardinal Nikolai of the Church. He warns everyone that this kid's blade might easily turn on his allies next. Meanwhile, Dale approaches a giant door, with Mentor Bale walking right beside him. A sweet, bright voice suddenly echoes down the hall. Someone is calling out. It is Lisa, Dale's little sister. She is looking so much more grown up. They embrace tightly. The young man smiles warmly, asking if she missed him. Suddenly, Helmut approaches. He happily congratulates the boy on his first massive victory. Holding his sweet sister's hand, Dale steps into the grand hall. Familiar faces wait for him inside. His master Safia, Charlotte, and further ahead near the sacred altar, his parents, watching with pride, placing his hand over his heart. The young man formally bows, ready to present his victory report to the Duke. Alan smiles warmly, calling the battle a flawless, perfect success. He sincerely thanks Bale for guiding the young heir so incredibly well. Helena, with a gentle expression, tells the boy he must be exhausted. She urges him to rest, no more duties today. Dale thanks her, smiling. His face is absolutely radiant. It has been a long, hard road, but now this place truly feels like home. Meanwhile, a different scene unfolds. A dark castle. Count Brandenburg is absolutely shaking with pure rage. Battered, weary soldiers slowly crawl back, and the Count furiously demands answers right now. Where is Philip? The tense reply shocks him. Sir Milva's fell in combat. The entire order was completely annihilated, wiped out. Most soldiers were captured, and their captors demand an outrageous ransom. Distraught, the Count asks with venom if this was just a pathetic, crushing defeat, followed by a shameful retreat. If so, they had better prepare themselves for absolute agony. He immediately orders them thrown into the deep, dark cellar to beg for death. That bloody clash is eventually named the Black and White War. Over time, stories only grew. A legend begins. A terrifying new title starts taking shape for him. Dale is now feared as the young Black Master, cruel, merciless. Years pass, and the boy turns 11. At his official ceremony, he is named Viscount. The young heir is stunned. This is no empty, symbolic title, not at all. A Viscount wields real authority and acts as the Duke's direct representative. Though deeply grateful, Dale quickly shifts his focus. He has a plan. There is something he must do immediately, even if it sounds incredibly sudden. As the new representative, he intends to make a shocking decision. Whispers about his ruthlessness still echo. People say the young Black Master spared nobody, even holy knights sworn to the goddess fell victim to his cruelty. This is bad. The powerful Church of Sistina will not stay quiet. So Dale makes his move. He decides to set off on a holy pilgrimage, straight into the papal territory to face his terrifying reputation head-on. With his own hands, the Duke listens closely, quietly weighing his son's dangerous ambition. He listens to the offer with a stone-cold expression, giving absolutely nothing away. He cannot understand that decision. Fear is a valuable, irreplaceable resource, and yet the boy wants to throw it away just to please the Church. The young mage answers calmly, "There's a power out there worth that exact risk." Alan gets curious, asking if there is another plan behind this. The protagonist confirms it, saying he will make an offer that simply cannot be refused. On top of that, he wants to get his hands on forbidden grimoires. A few nights back, while sleeping, the young mage felt a sudden wrong shift. It was like long-forgotten memories were forcing their way back to the surface. Out of nowhere, a massive skull materialized right in front of him, staring him down. It asked if he remembered their deaths. A split second later, severe pain tears through his body as voices echo inside his head. He sits up abruptly, gasping for air, clutching his chest. This was no ordinary dream. This was something deep, locked in the darkest corner of his mind, ripped open the moment he reached the third magic circle. And yet, what he discovered, there was not power, it was pure loneliness. The young man realized he was still too weak. He needed far more power, more precision. Just like a knight masters a sword, a truly elite wizard requires a proper spellbook. Later on, a carriage travels far past the kingdom. The wild boundary between Barony Greenbelt and Barony Parker marks the end of the Empire's northern region and the start of the Central Zone. After losing the Great War, the ruined Baron turned to the only path left: highway robbery. Sharp arrows cut through the air without warning, narrowly missing the horses, which begin to panic. Armed brigands block the road ahead, loudly demanding to know who these travelers actually are. They claim everyone knows a toll must be paid to pass noble lands. Our protagonist answers back, completely unbothered. He already prepared a hefty sum for this exact moment. One of the bandits sneers, grabbing the pouch to check the heavy weight. It is filled with gold, far too much for a simple toll. Highly satisfied, the brigands wave the carriage through. The carriage rolls along. The bandits laugh, thinking they just scored easy loot, already plotting something even bigger. But get this, the quiet never lasts. Just head an arrogant voice booms from above, ordering them to halt. The bear himself appears, demanding to know how they dare cross his territory without paying. Bale remains totally calm, stating the fee was already handed to his men. And trying to charge twice goes against the law. The bandits around them immediately deny everything, claiming they have never seen these travelers in their lives, insisting this is their very first meeting, and calling the travelers the real criminals. The noble baron warns them that if they still value their lives, they should hand over every single thing they own. One of his loyal guards boasts that they are standing before the famous hero who survived to the absolute end of the Black and White War, this hero of the turning point. The carriage slows down. From inside the coach, our main character starts laughing. Pulling back his hood, he looks the Baron right in the eye, asking with mocking curiosity if this is really the so-called hero of the turning point. The noble squints closely, and his eyes widen in terror as he recognizes exactly who is standing before him. Bale pulls back his hood too, and in that second, Baron realizes these two are no ordinary travelers. Taking a deep, shaky breath, he tries to regain control. There are only two of them, so he can still win. Masking his fear with forced confidence, he orders his archers to draw their bows, readying their arrows. Bale, standing steady at the young man's side, quietly asks for the order. Completely calm, the young man tells him this little performance ends right here. Without hesitating, the Baron points a trembling finger and orders the attack. Arrows slice through the air. The young man does not move, staring them down. Suddenly, the swordsman moves, deflecting every single projectile with blinding, effortless precision. Gripping his blade firmly, Bale declares he will carry out his duty. He will end this with everything he has. The archers freeze. They cannot believe their eyes, but there is no time. He moves. A single blinding slash forward, and an archer's arm is severed clean off. Bale keeps charging. Hesitation, none. He takes them all on alone. Baron watches, completely powerless. All his confidence is gone. As the young man slowly approaches him, the terrified noble drops to his knees. He begs for forgiveness, his voice trembling, but the boy just looks down, coldly asking why he should ever do that, before continuing his long journey. They carve a path through corrupt nobles, fallen knights, and bandits alike. A few weeks pass. Now a small vessel cuts silently through calm, open waters. Beside his loyal companion, the boy finally draws close to his destination. The papal territory of goddess Sistina, the grand constellation city of Quest. He gazes at this massive place with absolute, undeniable contempt. He calls this a simple pilgrimage, but trust me, he is not here to pray. This is a judgment. Together, they approach the heavily guarded entrance. Guarded by two heavily armed soldiers, the boy stops before the massive gates. He stares ahead with a cold, steady gaze and steps inside the magnificent hall. Stained glass windows scatter divine, colorful light in beautiful patterns. Imposing statues watch their every movement in absolute silence. Standing right at the center, waiting for them, is Cardinal Nikolai, a powerful sixth circle white mage, standing among the 12 supreme ruling clerics. The absolute top of the church, with a calm smile, he speaks. He notes he heard about the brutal battle and the tragic loss of life, calling the sacrifice of the holy brothers deeply regrettable. The young man calmly agrees, stating that he regrets it deeply as well. His own poor judgment cost far too much, and he regrets the heavy price paid. That is why he hid his position to make this pilgrimage. Seeking redemption, he only hopes his sincere feelings will finally reach the goddess. The cardinal studies the boy. To him, this makes perfect sense. The crushing weight of war must have been too much for someone so incredibly young. He is just an 11-year-old child, simple to manage. With a serene tone, the clergyman declares the goddess's mercy is open to everyone. He claims there is no sin in this world that cannot be completely forgiven. The boy is silent, then asks if that is really true, no exceptions. The cleric confirms without hesitation. The boy slowly raises his cold gaze. He asks if that is why the cardinal sold this country to the empire. Silence heavy and cold, the startled cardinal laughs it off as some ridiculous joke, but Dale stands his ground. He explains that before the church fell, 12 cardinals forced the former pope to sign the treaty. Nikolai was there himself, but the old leader refused. Until his final breath, betrayed and quickly eliminated. With the help of the White Tower and his corrupt cardinals, the pope was butchered by the imperial hunting dogs. Dale lays it all bare. Has that dirty sin been forgiven yet? The cardinal's face drops instantly. His jaw tightens, the mask of peace slips away. Furious, he fires. Back, a guest comes begging for redemption, yet dares to speak forbidden truths and expects to walk out alive, completely insane. The young noble holds firm. He tells him directly he did not come to judge the Holy Church, he just wants the price of his quiet discretion. Eliminating a messenger of the Duke changes nothing, but deep down Dale knows the truth. His master has no clue he is even here, reading the room. The cardinal slowly closes his eyes. A brilliant white light flares too. Life around him making the air heavy, controlling his temper. He demands to know the boy's terms. Without a moment of hesitation, Dale speaks up. Deep under the apostolic palace lies a hidden room where the church locks its most dangerous secrets. That is exactly where he is going. They call it the Hell Library, home to the most terrifying grimoire alive. The dreaded Book of the Black Goat. The young man descends the cold, dark stairs, a single flame guiding his steps. Every footfall echoes through the suffocating silence. The terms of their deal were made crystal clear. Only he is allowed inside this tomb. The church will turn a blind eye to whatever happens, and he can only claim one spellbook. In return, the boy must keep their darkest secrets buried forever. It was a deal Dale accepted instantly. As successor to the fearsome Black Duke, he swore it in the name of Satis. Their hands met, and blinding white magic surged around them. Like a holy spirit binding their souls, Nikolai made one final demand. He wanted both their hearts as collateral. That is how they sealed this blood pact using Gaius, the legendary spell of the White Tower. There was no turning back now. If either man betrays the other, the spell will literally crush his heart. With the deal set, Dale moves forward alone until he reaches the massive gate of hell, carved into the stone. Grim warning reads, "Abandon all hope, ye who enter." The young man touches the surface. As if sensing his bloodline, the doors slowly swing open. A faint smile crosses his face. They really do call this place hell. What lies beyond is not some quiet library, but a massive, shifting dungeon. Those forbidden grimoires are literally sleeping disasters. To any mage, finding a weapon like that is everything. Pursuing extreme power is only natural for him. Deep in the dark corridors, he runs right into the guardians, stitched together from stolen, rotting corpses. Talk about irony. The Holy Church preaches light but plays with dead bodies when they need weapons. Suddenly, the undead sentinels lunge. They advance. Dale reacts instantly, driving them all back with magic and pushing forward. Deep inside here, there is zero need to hide. He can use his full power, and that sudden freedom is intoxicating. With a sharp flick, the boy draws a dagger and slices his palm. Thick black blood wells up as the ritual begins. Dale speaks his own name and lineage, invoking a terrifying, ancient presence. Right onto the dungeon floor, he calls upon the black goat of the forest. Of 1,000 young, demanding it honor the old pact with the clan of. Darkness, the air turns freezing. Suddenly, a warped, echoing voice rises, whispering that this blood carries raw power, that it belongs to a true mage. It accepts the call, but then another voice cuts in, and another. Dozens of dark presences manifest at once, snarling and fighting over the contract. Each wants to be chosen. The world around Dale bends and warps, and a suffocating pressure takes hold of the room. Then a hooded figure appears. Before him, the entity offers a pact, promising to crush all his enemies and unleash an absolute festival of slaughter on anyone in his way. Staring into the twisted, flickering nightmare, Dale realizes exactly where he is. This is the inner realm of the Book of Massacre, a cursed grimoire, built on mountains of slaughtered souls, harboring a horribly cruel magic. Yet Dale doesn't even blink. He's totally unfazed by the horror. With cold authority, he orders the specter to get lost. It's not what he's hunting. The entity shrieks in fury at the rejection, but Dale just smiles, without a trace of fear, telling the monster that it's the one trapped here. His own dark mana begins to swell, dense and suffocating, shaking the environment. Paper and ink is all this is, a fictional reality with zero chance against his. The nightmare scenery crumbles, replaced by a vast, void-like purple space. It's heavy, carrying the weight of things that should never have existed. The creature is paralyzed. How is it being absolutely dominated by a child? Dale stares down at it, cold and detached. The lives taken by this book are nothing compared to the slaughter he's already witnessed, an entire city gone. Terrified, the monster panics and charges with every scrap of power left. It desperately claws to survive, but it's already too late. Its body begins to disintegrate, crumbling into ash. Slowly, the dark space fades back to normal. The floor is still slick with blood, but the walls are shifting, unstable. The entire domain is on the verge of collapsing. Then, a sweet, soft voice echoes. A girl with long, flowing hair and goat horns appears, calling him brother. Dale turns his head slowly. She approaches with a smile, saying it's a pleasure to meet him. She explains she's been alone forever, then asks with a curious tilt of her head if he wants to play. Dale just watches her in silence. He knows her true identity. This grimoire was penned by the immortal Duke Frederick, who brutally sacrificed his own daughter to break past the limits of mortality. That's why the book's core takes a child's shape, but she is no human. Getting straight to the point, Dale makes his offer. He wants her to form a contract with him. She happily agrees, but on one condition: she wants to see his world. Dale nods. Next instant, both of them are pulled directly into the boy's inner subconscious. The little girl looks around in absolute shock. She is totally enchanted. She loves this place, and she loves her new brother even more. But then a sudden distraction catches her eye. Other people are here, trembling in fear, and right among them is Cardinal Nikolai. It speaks volumes. They never expected the boy to actually claim that forbidden grimoire. Our hero confronts the priest, demanding to know why he came, since the church explicitly washed its hands of anything that went down in this godforsaken place. Smiling slightly, he realizes the holy man simply could not stick to their deal. He came to end him in person, a massive mistake. Bold move. In a world of pure darkness, fighting for the light is a suicide mission. The horned girl tilts her head to one side, full of curiosity, and asks her brother if she can eat these intruders. He gives her a brief look, coldly replying that if she gets sick, that is not his problem. Grinning with pure joy, she anticipates a massive feast after being trapped in that cold void. Desperate, Nikolai begins to pray, calling out to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Blinding sacred radiance manifests behind him, and a holy angel descends onto the battlefield. The rest of the soldiers join in, chanting their holy prayers. Brilliant wings burst from their backs as their bodies undergo a divine transformation. Our hero watches silently, completely unfazed. He knew this fight would be brutal. Instantly, the angels charge with blinding speed. The boy pushes himself to the limit, dodging slash after lightning-fast slash. Feeling the deadly heat of their blades, one holy sword barely misses him. Striking back instantly, he unleashes a volley of shadow spikes, but the celestial beasts evade them flawlessly. Nikolai raises his golden cross and sneers that the boy is still trapped at the third circle, meaning the Black Goat's book cannot unleash its true potential in his weak hands. The cardinal's aura blazes with overwhelming divine light. Channeling heaven's own fury, the demon girl covers her ears. visibly pained by the holy energy, but then a shift occurs deep. Within her, her face twists in pure annoyance rather than suffering. Thick, suffocating wave of dark energy starts pouring out, warping her entire form. Massive tentacles sprout. The angels charge and slice forward. Shearing through everything in their path, a warrior corners her, proclaiming that her judgment is at hand, but in a split second. Things shatter, her tentacles regrow instantly, whipping back with savage force and slamming the angels away. Horrified, Nikolai watches, desperate to see if his knights are still standing. Suddenly, a warped voice echoes, ordering them to praise. The angelic forms begin mutating. Black veins pulsing under their skin, bodies shaking as if dissolving from the inside out. That holy radiance is now rotting, infected by a deeply sickening corruption. The angels distort right before his eyes, their divine shapes melting into horrific, bloated nightmares. The horned girl giggles at the sight, her laughter sounding eerily innocent. She happily admits she missed this smell, and having waited so long for it, she intends to savor every single bite. Her merciless tentacles lash out, shredding those winged beasts one by one. She was a horrifying entity, capable of consuming even divine angels, and the young summoner behind her was absolutely no ordinary 11-year-old child prodigy. Before him stood a presence far more sinister, like the devil's own offspring. Dale calmly observes the carnage, suddenly remembering Nikolai's chilling warning: pact makers bear zero blame for anything done in hell. Trapped, the cardinal utterly collapses, his voice trembling. Spare me, he begs. Dale steps closer, studying him, asking what he offers. Nikolai desperately promises immense riches and high status, complete control over the temple, anything just to survive. Dark grin spreads across the young master's face. He likes what he hears, reaching a hand toward the cardinal's face with a deceptively gentle expression, demanding he surrender everything. Right here, it becomes incredibly clear that their agreement must be rewritten. This dark occult magic goes far beyond a mere bargain. For Nikolai, all escape routes have vanished. Suddenly, the creepy horned girl calls out to Dale, wearing a sweet yet highly disturbing smile. She tells him that playing together was incredibly fun, that she loves her new brother and will be eagerly waiting. Gliding closer, appearing highly elegant yet deadly at the same moment, she asks if he feels any fear. Dale calmly replies that he does not. Yet internally, he recognizes her volatile nature is far too dangerous to summon carelessly. It is an overwhelming power he cannot safely control quite yet. Her shadowy tentacles wrap around his body as she asks if they can meet again. He promises they will, bringing a vibrant, joyous grin to her face. Dale promises they will reunite shortly, and that when the time comes, she can run wild as much as she likes. Their dark prison starts to collapse, the abyss fading away to reveal the freezing stone walls of the underground library. Before vanishing, she whispers that she will hold him to his word, ending the hellish chaos. Soon after, the young heir of House Saxon receives an absolute pardon, officially sealed by Nikolai himself, to mark this sudden alliance between the Grand Temple and the Northern Duchy, holding a massive celebration unlike anything ever witnessed before. On the journey home, the young master no longer rides as some unrecognized traveler. Absolutely no one dares cross his path now, but the peace wouldn't last. Several months pass. Charlotte trains hard in the yard when the veteran Helmut asks with calm confidence if the young lady is prepared to start. Right at that instant, a deep purple energy surges wildly from her core. This heavy aura thickens instantly, shrouding her completely as her absolute focus peaks. Her steel blade coats itself in a dark violet flame, carrying immense weight that normal knights could never hope to match. Nearby soldiers stare in absolute disbelief. Helmut smiles warmly, realizing that drawing out such a dense aura at her exceptionally young age is truly remarkable. Suddenly, an authoritative voice disrupts her training, calling out to Charlotte Orhart. It is Dale, who approaches, locking eyes with her seriously, asking if she swears by the honor of her lord, her house, and all she holds dear to faithfully serve as a loyal knight. Instantly, Charlotte plunges her heavy sword deep into the dirt and drops to one knee. Her voice is resolute as she swears it from the very depths of her soul. Dale places his blade lightly upon her shoulders with a solemn face. Dale asks if she swears to protect the weak. She swears it with pure resolve, raising her voice proudly. In the Saxon name, he officially names her Sir Charlotte, his knight. Later, walking side by side, Dale asks if she truly believes this. Yes, Charlotte answers immediately, without a single trace of doubt. She chose the Saxon sword because that weapon forged the man before her. By her own choice, she traded her light rapier for a massive greatsword. It was not an easy path, but Dale clearly underestimated her talent. He shifts focus now. There is troubling news of a massive threat. An orc army is gathering near the demon border under their chief. Their war chief is leading them. His father is already summoning everyone. A massive bloody conflict is starting, and every northern lord must join the fight. He needs her by his side, not just an ally but his true knight. Understood, Charlotte looks back at him with an intensely serious expression. She promises to be the ultimate weapon, protecting her lord with honor. Dale smiles softly. Having her on his side is a massive advantage. Meanwhile, the Duke reviews grim battle reports with a heavy heart. Legions of orcs are actively descending from the dark northern lands. Worried, an informant asks if another demonic migration has begun. Very likely, when the hero defeated the Demon King, remnants survived. That previous clash was only a tiny fraction of the remaining monsters. Thousands of beasts are still out there, fighting hard to survive. Alan has already summoned all the northern lords to the capital. Every elite knightly order and the Black Tower must deploy immediately. This upcoming clash will be a brutal conflict, and trust me, nobody is ready for it. Looking at his son, the Duke decides it is time for necromancy. That afternoon, the two step into the Duke's dark underground workshop. The lesson begins. Alan asks a very direct question to his son. What separates a legendary death knight from a common, mindless zombie? Dale suggests it is the same difference between a knight and a soldier. Alan shakes his head slowly. That quick answer is only partially correct. Raw power is not enough. The secret lies in sword aura. Before them lies a cold corpse, a knight who recently fell. Even in his final, gasping moments, he swore his body to the Saxon family. With a sharp snap of his fingers, a dark energy ignites. It seeps deep into the flesh, awakening a power that lay sleeping. The Duke explains that a stronger knight in life makes a stronger undead. Knights always carry their pride, whether they are living or dead. That is something Dale must always remember when command is given. Moving on, the Duke tells his son to follow him deeper down. There is something far more crucial he needs to show him. They walk down the dungeon steps, going deeper with every step. Boots echo in the absolute emptiness as they make their descent. Dale silently wonders how far they will go before his father finally speaks. Alan asks if he knows the legend of the immortal Duke Frederick, the founder of the Saxon family, a name Dale recognizes immediately. The grimoire that monster created is carved deep into his soul, but he keeps quiet. He simply claims he read about him in old library books. His father, Alan, continues the explanation, calling him an absolute beast who did not hesitate to sacrifice his very own daughter for power. What lies ahead is that dark legacy. The two of them step forward, passing through a glowing violet portal. Alan explains that only those carrying the purest blood of their family can cross. On the other side, Dale's eyes go wide in absolute shock. Before them stands a massive, silent army of knights in pitch-black armor. They are completely motionless. Alan finally reveals the family's dark secret. Their immortal ancestor found a way to puppet the dead without wasting mana. For generations, the Saxon leaders kept building this hidden legion of corpses. This is the legendary Death Order, and Alan still commands them today. He clenches his teeth. Everything is finally starting to make sense now. His father's lessons about iron determination and proving oneself through action. Their isolation from society, the terror they bring, it is no accident. It is a path forged in a magic far too sinister for the world to accept. The sheer hypocrisy of it all is so intense, it actually makes him sick. The Duke extends his hand toward the silent legion of dead warriors. He calls this ancient darkness the ultimate shield to protect their legacy. Then he calmly asks his son if he is prepared to inherit this terrifying force. Dale presses a hand to his racing chest, but his resolve does not shake. He answers yes, he has been ready for this from the very beginning. No matter how stained or forbidden this power is, he will take it. The young boy raises his palm, channeling his mana with intense focus. This is no simple spell. He is attempting to puppet a dead warrior. The cold corpse suddenly moves, gripping a massive greatsword with both hands. It holds the blade in a silent salute, almost like a respectful bow. Then the undead knight moves, slicing through the air with devastating force. Alan watches this display in quiet awe before commenting on his son's skill. The kid's mana control is pretty insane, way more refined than normal. Dale admits he cannot keep it active without constantly pouring mana in. The Duke agrees, but points out he is still a novice at this. For now, the main goal is simply learning practical necromancy for combat. The scene changes. A thick, dark energy suddenly begins to fill the room. Nearby stone coffins start to drink in the shadowy power around them. From within the tombs, aggressive, skeletal goblin corpses rise to fight. They charge straight toward the undead knight under Dale's control. The clash is short. One goblin is instantly cleaved by a clean strike. The knight spins around, wiping out the rest with one single sweep. Pure silence follows. Alan is secretly blown away by the result. Dale's puppet shows sword skills that easily surpass their elite forces. Sometime later, Sephi watches her young student train with a heavy expression. An unfamiliar tightness squeezes her chest, and it's starting to deeply bother her. The elven mentor silently recalls the day the boy made his promise. He pretended to be a child, but his master saw what lay deep within. A cold, dark world, and the quiet longing of someone craving genuine affection. As the boy keeps destroying targets, Sephia tries to push those thoughts away. Taking a deep breath, she decides to offer him a quick compliment instead. She mentions his control over the water attribute has improved a lot lately. Dale explains he promised his father he would become someone worthy of real pride. Yet something about him seems unsettled, which Sephia notices immediately. She asks what is wrong, and the hesitant young man looks down. He asks if she could still care for him, even after seeing his ugliest side. One day, he admits, he must fully embrace the dark side of his family. He fears that when that day arrives, his master will only be disappointed. A heavy silence drops over them. Honestly, the tension is unreal. Then Sephia steps closer, gently placing her hands to guide his face. She forces him to look at her, her steady eyes never wavering once. This simple gesture makes his heart race as she gazes deeply at her disciple. She tells him an elf's life is long, and she will remain unchanged. Even when he grows up, she will stay exactly as she is. Her mind drifts back to the rumors of Dale's massive victory in the war. While people praised his genius, they also feared his dark reputation. Hearing all those rumors, the elf could never truly feel happy for him. She never wanted her precious disciple walking a dark path of destruction. Gently, she promises to stay with him until he understands her true feelings. She wants to stand as a woman beside her man, proving he is never alone. Releasing his face, Sephia steps back slightly and clears her throat to pull away. She tries to ease the heavy tension, quickly shifting her tone of voice. She suggests returning to their training, but Dale cannot simply move on. Overcome with intense emotion, he steps forward and pulls her into a tight embrace. Thanking her, he confesses his deepest feelings without a single shred of hesitation. He cares deeply for her, and with a heavy voice, he begs her to wait. Holding her close, the young man gives himself over to her comforting warmth. It is a warmth capable of driving away the deepest cold inside his heart. A promise made, and just like that, the scene shifts entirely. Colorful banners flutter in the wind as soldiers assemble across the fields. To prepare for the massive demonic migration, northern lords gather in Duke territory. An armored knight steps forward, placing his hand respectfully over his heart. He introduces himself as Kenneth of Balderburg, a loyal mid-ranking lord. Serving House Saxon, he brings 30 knights to the call. He commands 100 heavy infantry and 400 common soldiers. Many young nobles show up with pure ambition. Honestly, who can blame them? They know exactly who to impress, the young heir of the estate. Bess, eldest son of the Gale family, confidently steps forward to pledge his life. He wants to fight directly beside him, sharing the ultimate battlefield glory. Nearby, excited young noblemen also crowd around, pushing past the guards. They shower Dale with charming smiles, praising how mature he has become. The entire atmosphere suddenly shifts as a purple-haired young man approaches. He steps right up, getting straight to the point about wanting to test the air. He wants to witness that power firsthand. Just behind him, a gray-haired officer scrambles to intervene, calling the kid insolent while offering a frantic apology. Dale simply raises a hand, signaling for absolute silence. He already knows this face. It is Jans, the second son of Baron Kenneth, getting pretty serious now. Dale asks if the boy is actually trying to challenge him. Jans keeps his tone respectful, yet he refuses to take even a single step back. He has heard the rumors and has never once doubted the heir's skill. But Dale knows this opponent is no ordinary soldier. This kid is a martial genius. A small smile creeps onto Dale's face as he mentions the mercenary band. Jans built a crew of 100 men completely from scratch. He nods. Life as the second son of a miner, Baron, meant his future was predetermined. Denied any inheritance, the young warrior had to carve his own path with steel. To Dale, this is far more than a simple sparring match. This is perfect. A golden opportunity, really. Grinning, he accepts the challenge. The two step apart. Immediately, the atmosphere in the grand hall grows incredibly tense. This clash is all about claiming authority before the real war starts. Jans readies himself. Dale calmly warns him that his blade acts quite differently from normal steel. The challenger replies that he is well aware of the Shadow Sword's reputation. With a firm voice, Dale orders him to use his full strength. No holding back, no hesitation. Jans gladly accepts those terms as a bright. Purple aura flares to life around him. He is not a full knight yet. But his posture is rock solid, and his training is exceptionally sharp. Dale spots his solid foundation instantly and decides to match that enthusiasm. Dark, ominous energy rises from the floor, rapidly condensing into a shadow blade. Suddenly, the temperature in the room drops. The sheer pressure is overwhelming. Dale gestures for the mercenary to strike with everything he has got. Like a flash of lightning, the fight begins. Jans lunges forward instantly. His glowing sword slashes forward, passing mere inches away from Dale. The air barely evades the deadly edge, keeping his eyes locked onto his foe. Still, the relentless onslaught keeps coming, so fast, so unbelievably heavy. Jans fights with a fierce determination. In his mind, he has one burning thought. His opponent was born with everything. Steel collides with a deafening screech. He wants to prove that raw effort can crush a privileged genius. Pouring everything into this moment, the purple-haired mercenary presses the attack. He grips his hilt tightly, aiming a lethal thrust directly at Dale's neck. A sudden opening appears, the glowing edge inches closer to the air. It is a devastating thrust, but as the challenger attempts to recover his footing, he is the one who ends up completely exposed. Dale's blade is already there. Hovering just inches from his eyes, no actual strike lands. Instead, shadows stretch out. Dark spikes erupt directly from the floor. Dale smiles with supreme confidence. He is entirely in control here. With a simple flick, the dark blades shoot forward. Jans leaps back with incredible reflexes, his purple aura deflecting the debris. Dale observes his fluid movements and decides this opponent is actually quite useful. A perfect stepping stone to build his own reputation. Grinning, he makes his move. He does not move an inch, baiting Jans closer, eyes burning with pure hatred. The knight lunges forward, swearing this little brat will regret ever underestimating him. There. Weapons clash in a shower of sparks, but Dale holds his ground. Around them, the crowd watches in tense silence. Shock is written on every face. No one expected this level of skill from an 11-year-old kid, but the eldest heir of. How Saxon is proving himself a genuine warrior. Dale presses his advantage again. Mockingly tells Jans to try and dodge the next blow. Dark energy suddenly erupts, surging toward the knight, but the young man realizes this attack is not meant to kill. The boy is just showing off for the northern lords and their sons. Furious at being used as a prop, Jans cuts straight through the dark blast with his blade and charges forward, putting everything he has left into this final, desperate strike. The purple-haired knight pours his entire soul into the attack because admitting that Dale's talent was a living proof of life's ultimate unfairness was a reality he simply could not accept, but his blade suddenly cracks and splits. The game is over, the truth is undeniable. Jans falls to his knees. He plants his shattered weapon into the dirt and bows his head, utterly defeated. Dale stands quietly amid the silence. His incredible performance must be due to the Black Goat's mysterious book. During the clash, the whole world had slowed down. His shadow sword felt completely natural, like a literal extension of his own body. And the dark blades obeyed his mind like extra limbs. This fight with Jans truly proved his rapid growth, gathering his aura into sharp shards of shadow. Dale launches them past his opponent, not to injure, but as a final show. Then he turns to the gathered crowd, eyeballing them, and asks if anyone else wants to test their luck, but the answer comes in a totally unexpected way. A sword tip embeds into the stone right beside him, and a knight bows low, loudly swearing his lifetime loyalty to the young master. Dale remembers his father's words. That fear is what guarantees absolute loyalty. Looking at this bowing soldier, the boy realizes it is the absolute truth. Later on, the grand banquet carries on with nobles drinking and chatting. Jans slips out of the hall with two companions. One of them swigs straight from a bottle, pointing out that Jans looks pretty rough. Jans sighs, admitting his bitter defeat, no matter how hard he trains and swings his sword, he will never even touch the young lord's level. He always believed talent did not decide your worth, that hard work changed everything. But that hopeful philosophy completely shatters when he looks at the brilliant eldest son of House Saxon. Dwelling on the unfairness only makes him angrier. So he tells his buddies to shut up and just drink. Later, the group gathers around a cozy bonfire. Jan scoffs about how all the highborn women were swarming all over an 11-year-old kid, fancy nobles humbling themselves just to gain a child's favor. Pathetic. Strip away those fancy titles, and everyone is exactly the same. With a bitter smile, he mutters that the little lord likely has no clue how to handle that much female attention. Then he freezes, realizing they are no longer alone. Dale himself is standing right there. His friends jump up in sheer panic, asking when on earth the boy arrived. With a relaxed, quiet confidence, the young lord sits right down by the warm fire like an invited guest. He grabs a bottle and gestures for Jans to pour. Handing it over, Dale asks if he hates him. To the boy, the world is completely unfair and absurd. There is not a single thing people get to choose, from the talents they are born with to where they grow up. Everything is just totally out of their control. Wearing a friendly smile, Dale puts his hand on Jonas's shoulder and tells him to stop being so brutal on himself. There is no fate that can ever be changed by human hands anyway. Jonas hears this and starts laughing, a laugh that just won't stop. With a tired smile, he admits the young lord is likely right. No matter how hard he fought, he never really stood a fighting chance. Dale admits he has grown pretty fond of Jonas and his mercenary crew. He asks if they would like to put their swords to work in the name of House Saxon. This sudden offer leaves Jonas completely stunned as Dale lays out his proposal. The Night Ravens, his elite knights, will train Jonas's men. Before the coming battle, they will teach them proper swordplay and aura cultivation. And here is the crazy part. The boy who proved how unfair the world was is now the single person willing to hand him a chance nobody else dared to. Dale explains that he simply needs more capable bodies on his side. And Jonas just happened to be in the right place at the right time. To the mercenary, it felt like the world's harsh injustice had suddenly vanished. In an instant, sometime later, dawn breaks over the massive Saxon estate. Inside the castle meeting room, the Duke demands a full situation report. Huge mountain range separates the Demon King's lands from their borders, and their defensive lines are barely holding. The scout unit has retreated from the 9th fortress alongside the northern lords. But before abandoning the area, they scorched everything they could not carry. If the guards maintain their slow, fighting retreat, the enemy will reach the Upper Saxon River completely exhausted. That is where they can crush their main force. It is finally time to deploy the field army. The Duke orders the lords to prepare and the troops to get ready to march. Before they scatter, Alan asks to speak with Dale in private. He will place the mobile strike force fully under his son's leadership. When the big war starts, Dale will take charge, but Saphir is staying by his side. This catches Dale off guard. It is not the Blue Tower's policy to meddle in human conflicts. Alan points out that the elf is already the top advisor to House Saxon, and battling barbarians is barely a worldly conflict. Still concerned, Dale asks if this is truly his master's own decision. The Duke confirms it. He says Dale proved himself in that massive victory during the Black and White turning point. He will surely succeed now. Dale agrees but says he has one extra request to make. With a concerned look, the Duke asks what it is. Dale wants the ghost swordswoman assigned to his unit. Charlotte puts on her heavy helmet. With the absolute look of someone who has made up her mind, Dale is stunned by her confidence. She tells him she is, after all, the guardian knight who must protect the famous young Black Master. The young Lord grins, saying she looks like a true knight now, no longer a little girl. Something is seriously bothering Dale. He cannot shake the memory of that knight's sinister stare. He turns to Charlotte, demanding a promise that she will do whatever it takes to survive. Charlotte insists that risking her life for him is simply a knight's duty. Dale frowns, asking if she wants to learn what being a knight actually means. Never betray your lord's trust, and right now, he wants her to stay alive. He flatly tells her that this brutal battlefield was never meant for her. Charlotte promises to hold those words close. Soon after, the massive orc horde begins moving. They march south as the Duke leads the main army straight into the fray. Dale rides toward the upper Saxon River with Bale, Charlotte, and his teacher Sephia. Alongside his knightly order, Dale glances back, watching the massive allied army march. He knows everything changes today. Sephia is far more than just a teacher now. The moon still hangs low in the sky as they arrive at the river camp. Sephia patrols the perimeter. Dale finds her there, her face uncharacteristically grim. He cuts straight to the chase, wanting to know why she accepted his father's proposal. The beautiful elf simply replies that she is following her true calling in life. She made a solemn vow to stand right by his side, no matter what. Dale smiles and thanks her, but a sudden, violent noise shatters the quiet night. He barks orders for the mobile strike force to instantly prepare for a clash. The fast-moving orcs have hit the camp, striking before anyone can properly react. Bale scrambles over in a total panic, begging his young lord to command them. The monsters are already pushing hard to cross the shallow river and charge them. Dale orders Bale to take 4 full battalions and launch a brutal frontal assault. They must slaughter the beasts, fast, before they can establish a solid bridgehead. Dale will lead the remaining 2 battalions to strike from the rear. Up front, the archers warn that the creatures are closing in fast. Bale screams for his men to hold the line. A deadly rain of arrows flies. Dale's elite knights move into position. The young lord watches, deeply tense. He silently prays Bale holds long enough. Meanwhile, a deadly trap is waiting. 2 hooded figures lurk in the shadows of the rocks, targeting Dale. The archers fire relentlessly, fighting desperately to slow down the oncoming horde. From the high ground, they pick off the savage wolf riders one by one. But one massive wolf leaps directly into the defensive line with terrifying speed. It sinks its fangs into a soldier. A horrific scream echoes through the camp. Blood spills, but the main orc force still manages to breach the bridge. The instructions are simple: wipe them out and let absolutely nobody through. After a grueling march, the enemy rear is bound to be exhausted. Dale plans to cross upstream and flank them, but Bale must survive first. He needs to hold the line just a bit longer. Another soldier falls. A giant orc brandishes his axe, sneering at the remaining defenders. Then, boom. A massive explosion rocks the rear. Dale's flank attack has officially begun. Seizing the chaos, Bale orders his men to push forward and trap them. It is time for Dale's heavy cavalry to lock this trap shut. The troops show zero mercy. Dale readies his devastating shadow shot ability. Dark magic tears through the ranks, shredding the monsters in seconds. His men cheer, energized by their lord, but wait, Dale misses the threat behind him. Charlotte cuts in before the beast can even swing. Her blade flashes clean. The monster crashes down. She calls out to Dale she has this under control. Close by on the chaotic battlefield, Sephia fights through sheer exhaustion, shouting a grim warning. If they delay, the orcs will regroup. Meanwhile, Bale drives his spear forward, shoving back any monster that dares get close, but the charging horde is simply overwhelming. He yells that a counterattack is building. Hearing this, Dale makes his decision. Retreat now. The cavalry instantly wheels around, pulling back from the giant wolves. Their main mission is done anyway, so fighting for a total victory makes zero sense. They need to lure the beast riders into a bottleneck, stretching their lines thin. Once reinforcements lag, they strike, but watch this, everything suddenly goes sideways. Right among the monstrous wolves, Sephia spots a lone horse. Atop it sits a hooded figure, blazing fire magic gathering. Sephia screams for Dale to get clear, while desperately channeling her own freezing ice magic to counter. She unleashes the spell, raising a colossal frozen wall behind their retreating lines. Flash freezing everything, yet the mysterious mage is already fully charged. A blinding sphere of flame crashes straight into the giant frozen defensive barrier. Pure elemental chaos erupts as the ice holds briefly, then shatters completely. The fire rips straight through, consuming a soldier until absolutely nothing remains of him. Dale stares in horror. That is not normal flame. He orders everyone to scatter. That is a red tower purifier, a lethal combat pyromancer trained to destroy. They exist solely to burn the Empire's foes, and Sephia instantly realizes the terrifying truth. This entire ambush has one target. They are coming for the young lord. Dale bellows for the troops to keep moving and avoid clustering together. Riding in formation against pyromancers is basically begging to be burned alive on the field. Yet if they scatter too far from each other, the wolf riders will easily tear them apart. Trapped in this absolute nightmare, Dale realizes he must unleash his hidden strength. But before he can make his choice, Sephia pulls alongside him, demanding he dismount immediately. She wants to stand ground and fulfill her duty as his master. Dale hesitates. Then he suddenly brings his horse to a dead stop, catching the entire unit completely off guard. He grabs a nearby rider and commands the cavalry to keep pulling back. Charlotte must ride ahead and deliver the urgent report to the Duke immediately. The girl protests instantly, arguing that her duty is always to protect the young lord. Dale snaps back that it is an order, telling her to trust him. Reluctantly, Charlotte nods, turns her horse, and gallops away. Escape is not possible. Sephia asks him with surprise if he had actually been planning to run away alone. Dale fires back that he would never leave his mentor to face death alone. Gathering her magic, Sephia smiles softly as she realizes his true intent. She warmly thanks her student for considering her safety while formulating his reckless tactical plan. Suddenly, a massive wolf ridden by a snarling orc leaps straight toward them. Sephia reacts instantly, gathering massive power in her palm to summon sharp ice crystals. An agonizing howl pierces the air as the freezing magic completely binds the charging beast. Both the wolf and its orc rider are frozen solid, completely paralyzed. A second charger stumbles, unable to pass the icy block. Dale warns Sephia. Their opponent is a sixth circle blue elder, meaning anyone facing them needs deep preparation. Stepping up, he demands to know exactly what they want, what their true goals are, and why the red magic tower is allied with demons. The hooded mage just sneers, calling Dale nothing but kindling for their fire. He launches a massive fireball, shouting that their deaths will serve as a sacrifice too. The red, Sephia quickly steps forward, unleashing a surge of blue dissonance, a powerful spell that unravels opposing magic. In an instant, the enemy flame simply vanishes. With this opening, Dale wastes no time and orders the Saxon knights to charge. Their magic is neutralized. Raise those lances, push forward. The knights move instantly, driving their weapons deep into the monsters and slaying them one by one. Watching the brutal clash from afar, Duke Allen notes that the trial these mages face goes far beyond any ordinary fight. They're staring right into the abyss, where chaos, fear, and hatred entangle. So he gives them a warning: do not cling to victory or defeat. Let the surrounding death become your fuel. Carry the fear, but do not break. Duke Allen orders his mages to etch this carnage deep into their minds and forge it into the strength they need. Then he nods toward Eris, who bows in response. The Duke announces it is time to deploy the younger generation. Eris quietly agrees, ready for what comes next. Right then, Charlotte rides up in a panic. She quickly removes her helmet to reveal her face, delivering a desperate, direct warning. The young lord is in grave danger. Meanwhile, war horses thunder into battle. Dale's forces press their advantage until an enemy pyromancer begins, channeling raw flame into his fist and launching a devastating blast at the vanguard. Dale and Sephia act instantly, combining their magic to intercept the strike. The sheer collision of water, ice, and fire constructs a colossal barrier that entirely halts the charge. Refusing to yield, Dale weaponizes the shattered ice. He unleashes his Shadow Magnum, firing a volley of high-speed frozen shards directly at the cultists. These are lethal projectiles built to kill instantly. Yet the robed mages are fully prepared. They manifest an intense shield of flames to vaporize the shards, leaving Dale dangerously low on options. Their blazing armor is highly unusual. It even resisted Sephia's magic earlier. Suddenly, a brave lancer charges forward, swearing to snuff out those flames. But the cultists focus their energy once more with terrifying speed. In a savage counter, they ignite the lancer's own weapons, burning them. From the inside out, now these deadly purifiers press closer to Sephia. Dale steps in to shield her, firing rapid bursts of dark energy. The dark bolts strike true, bringing down one of the robed attackers. Dale corners the fallen mage, demanding to know their purpose and who sent them. The dying man only gasps that soon, this entire world will burn. His flesh begins to mutate and crackle with raw heat. Everything will burn. And they will rise from the ashes. Now watch as the true nightmare unfolds. This is a self-detonation spell. their armor was never meant for survival. It is a catalyst designed to incinerate the wearer and everything nearby. Get back, Dale screams to Sephia, but the cultist cackles that it is too late. The resulting blast is massive, like a tactical bomb detonating. A shockwave of pure destruction levels the entire field as the dust clears. Sephia lies collapsed beside Dale, who drags his battered body upward. He looks toward his master, relieved she is still breathing. Her last-second ice barrier barely absorbed the worst of it. Even the elite knight Raven Knights lie scattered, utterly broken by that massive shockwave. Suddenly, another masked pyromancer emerges. He spots the young lord still standing on his feet. Without delay, the robed killer lunges. A flaming fist closes in far too fast to dodge. There is no time to think. Dale grits his teeth, forcing his heavy muscles to move. With one clean, blinding arc of his sword, he slices the attacker right in half. The dying body starts to crackle with volatile heat, but Dale anticipates the blast this time. He leaps back, letting the corpse burst harmlessly. 2 down. He survived hell for this exact moment. Every agonizing second of waiting has led to this. Violent memories suddenly flood his mind. The freezing tables, the sickening flesh modifications, the sheer torture. Now Dale stares ahead. His icy glare promises nothing but absolute ruin. Do not even think about running from him. Every single drop of blood he spilled is about to be returned with interest. Sephia painfully pushes herself off the frozen ground. Around her, agonizing screams echo through the smoke. But amidst the dying soldiers and burning ruins, the young lord stands completely alone. He does not flinch. Dale sprints straight toward the nearest circle of mages. The targeted pyromancer erupts, acting as a human bomb to incinerate everything nearby. The blast swallows the surviving royal guards, the very men who swore to protect his family. They are ripped to pieces in a blinding storm of ash, while the fanatical mages laugh. They laugh like absolute psychopaths, but trust me, they have no idea who they are dealing with. The real monster here is Dale. The mages suddenly realize their trick is useless. Desperate, they scream for everyone to swarm him before he cuts them all down. One of the hooded figures, wounded, doubles over in pain. Another lunges blindly through the mist. He meets Dale's blade and dies instantly. This is pure, unadulterated fury. All the torment the young lord suppressed is finally exploding outward in these deadly, rhythmic strikes. With every single swing, he translates his deep scars into lethal blades. The zealots detonate themselves left and right, yet their desperate fire fails to touch him. The survivors freeze, watching the bloody slaughter in absolute horror. This is not a boy. The quiet teenager standing in the ash has become the literal god of vengeance. Dale steps over the smoldering bodies, whispering a cold, hard truth. "Your mission is over," he says. "You never stood a chance at killing me." A badly burned mage sneers, asking if he truly dares to brag about victory. Even with their precious dark magic tower shattered, these cultists feel absolutely zero fear. The fanatic wheezes that every single one of them came here, prepared to rot. They willingly sacrifice their own physical forms just for a shot at this assassination. That twisted devotion briefly makes Dale hesitate. He is dealing with literal suicidal weapons. The last active cultist screeches, charging forward as his core begins to white-hot glow. A massive shockwave erupts right in his face, yet when the smoke clears, Dale is still there, entirely untouched by the devastating heat. Even the sacred purifier device survives the blast, standing intact behind him. Suddenly, heavy hooves echo through the clearing. A dark, imposing rider approaches. The legendary Duke himself has arrived. He calmly looks down at the remaining zealots. "Throwing your life away is easy," he states, his voice carrying immense weight. He asks if they have the actual courage to survive, because living takes real strength. Dying is the easy way out. Living, that is where the true battle lies. The enemies lunged forward, screaming that the newcomer was talking absolute madness. An explosion tore through them, yet the pyromancer emerged from the smoke unscathed. The Duke stared with freezing eyes. Did he still fail to understand? Alan simply refused to grant the dying pyromancer permission to pass. On this field, no enemy was allowed to die by their own choice. Dark purple energy swirled in his hand, a fused, abominable curse. He hurled it instantly. The purifier's flesh began melting like warm wax. Their bodies came apart, their individual screams fading into the heavy smoke. In their place rose a grotesque mountain of tangled eyes and gnashing teeth. Duke Alan watched the writhing horror with a chilling, detached calm. "Living is far more agonizing than being prepared to die," he whispered. He didn't care why they allied with orcs or tried to murder his son. They had thrown their own lives away. Now they would pay the price. Their sentence was to exist forever inside that screaming, fused monstrosity. On the blood-soaked grass, a dying soldier weakly called out to his lord. With his final breath, he begged to complete his duty as a night crow. Dale knelt in the dirt, carefully raising the broken warrior. "I understand," the young lord promised, holding the dying man close. "The Saxon house will never forget your devotion. Sleep now." The knight's arm fell limp. Silence claimed him. The duke walked over. The father noted the severe losses, but Dale could only shake his head. "There are no excuses." The duke asked if he blamed himself as commander. The boy nodded slowly. "I led the Saxon knights to their graves. I should have ordered a retreat the moment the first blade clashed." His father spoke softly, telling him not to carry that burden alone. He had tried to face dozens of orcs and purifiers practically alone. Only Sephi stood with him. He had done everything humanly possible. Dale stared down at the blood-stained grass, unable to feel any victory. The fallen knights had begged to serve even after death. That meant their grim war was not over yet, not by a long shot. The fresh corpse began to twitch and stand. Dale turned to his father. He pleaded, let them fulfill their mission to the end, far away. The famous Crimson Magic Tower stood tall. Inside, a red-haired nobleman rested. Beside a young, blonde woman, they were in the bedroom of Marquis Yuri. With a smooth, easy smile, he asked if she had sweet dreams. She whispered that she did, teasing that she might still be dreaming. Being alone with the Empire's most beautiful lord was a rare honor. "Are you truly that charming?" she giggled. He only smirked back. "See for yourself," he murmured. The two drew close, sharing a deep kiss. But mid-kiss her eyes widened. Crimson drops fell slowly to the floor. A thick, heavy metallic taste suddenly flooded her mouth, choking her. Terror struck as she realized the truth, but his hand moved fast. He grabbed her chin, staring down with eyes colder than winter ice. "Is the drink to your liking?" he asked in a terrifying whisper. Dawn broke, casting weak light over the smoldering, silent battlegrounds. The orc keeps fighting, pushing the surviving knights back as Helmet stands out. He weaves through them, dodging attacks and blocking brutal strikes with his giant sword. The enemy he faces is no ordinary monster. It is the savage orc war chief. This is their commander. The young lord quickly orders Helmet to fall back. He declares that defeating these orcs is his own responsibility. Without hesitation, Dale charges forward alongside his troops as a knight strikes. The warrior charges straight for the enemy commander, leaving Helmet completely stunned. That flawless attack formation could only be controlled by a highly skilled necromancer. The undead advance with eerie precision, striking down the orcs with absolute focus. Their efficiency is terrifying. Suddenly, the beast's eyes glow with wild fury. The monster unleashes a deafening shriek that hits the nearby soldiers like a physical blow. Helmet orders an immediate retreat. This beast is too powerful. But wait, Dale totally ignores the command and keeps pushing forward. He knows. His current strength isn't enough. He must become far more cruel to win. At that moment, the creepy little girl tied to his dark power appears. The entity from the goat book asks to help, but Dale refuses. It is not her time yet. Unleashing that dark magic in public is way too risky. The little girl hugs him warmly, promising never to cross her master. She only asks that he will play with her as much as he wants in return. Dale's dark energy swells, creeping outward and locking onto the massive orc. Sinister shadows creep from beneath his feet, but the war chief remains fearless. He charges forward with weapons raised. Dale instantly activates Shadow Stalker. The deadly strike hits the beast right in the forehead as shadows surge. Dark spikes erupt from the ground, impaling the orc war chief from every direction. And just like that, the giant monster crashes down, completely defeated. This victory earns the young master a terrifying new title before everyone. He is the feared Black Prince. The scene then shifts. We return to the Black Magic Tower, where the Duke questions Eris. He wants to know if investigating the purifiers brought any results, but she sighs. They invaded the prisoners' minds for 3 days, but found almost nothing. Their brains were already hollowed out by powerful memory erasure magic. Those men were clearly set up to be captured from the very beginning. The enemy even knew Dale would split from the main cavalry unit.